Am I the asshole here? I stopped wearing and using what my husband gave me after he said that it's his money. I, 26 female, have been with my husband, 30 male, for 5 years. Married 3 months ago. I'm a housewife, and I have a little side job so I can buy what I want. My husband has a high-paying job that covers all the utilities and bills. Just a little background. After we got married, my husband insisted for me to stop working altogether since his paycheck can cover everything and help us live comfortably, so I agreed. Last Monday when I got home after I bought groceries, he asked me how much it was, and I told him that it's $950 since he has requests and additions to the list. If not, it'd only be $850 just like every other month. After that, he got angry at me and told me to stop using his paycheck since it's not my money. I explained to him that I followed the list and got his request. He didn't listen and said that I'm basically throwing it all away. I was taken aback since I only use his money to pay the bills and utilities. I have a side job for my interests, and I never ask him something unless I need it. I was so angry at his accusation after that day that I began to dig up my old stuff and used it instead, and I also stopped wearing or using his gifts. He confronted me and asked why. I only said that I don't feel like throwing his money away. He looked sad and left. When I told my friends about it, they said that what I did was petty and I should just listen. Some of them said that I should be pettier. My parents are reprimanding me for taking things too far. It's been 4 days now and we haven't talked. I'm starting to think that I really did go too far. Am I the asshole for rejecting his gifts? Edit. Since people are asking why we spend such amounts on groceries every month, I would like to add that we have our weekly dinner with our friends and family, and we're usually the host. My husband likes getting those high-quality products, so I can cook those 5-star-like dishes for our family and friends. I hope you understand. Specific Haunting says, not the asshole. His comment about his money was hurtful, and your reaction wasn't extreme. You are justified in feeling upset. A serious conversation about finances and respect is needed. OP, after 6 years, he finally told you who he is. Believe him. You can either accept him for who he is or resist. They got married 3 months ago. She's locked down. Makes sense for his true colors to start showing now. It's so sad how often this happens. Edit. By locked down, I mean in his head. She's locked down so his actual self can now make an appearance. She's not actually locked down and can of course leave. Material Cellist says, not the asshole. But you need to find yourself a good job so you don't go down the path of financial abuse. If he can throw money in your face once, he can do it again. It's awful to insist that she stay home and then say that she has no right to his money. Like, he created a situation to belittle her. His insistence that OP should stop working and his anger over the grocery bill suggests a desire for control over her life and finances. A grocery list that he added items to on top of it all, with brand name stuff, so he can impress people when they host 5-star meals cooked by OP. I know people like to throw around on Reddit like, oh, he did one thing wrong against you, you need to divorce him now and run. The fact that you had to come to Reddit about this and that you couldn't tell your friends, it just tells me that this is an extreme situation. Like, this is very, very odd behavior for this guy. Well, I guess no, you did tell your friends, and they told you that you were petty and should listen, and some said that you should be pettier, but none said, holy shit, that's red flag behavior. That's not like him at all. Why did none of your friends have your back? Are they okay? And then your parents reprimanding you for taking things too far? I'm sorry. Are we in the Victorian era still? Are we still listening to our silent generation parents and their way of thinking and their way of life? You guys also haven't talked for 4 days. That's not a sign of a healthy relationship at all. 3 months after getting married? Surely this information was presented to your friends and to your parents. How are they blaming you for this? What did you say to them, and what did he say to them to turn them against you? Because this level of reaction from him saying, it's my money, how dare you be spending my money like that? That's not good. And that's just a sign of things to come. That's him putting his foot in the door. That's him turning the cooker on, and you're the frog in boiling water, or about to be. And I genuinely question if in a situation like this, therapy is going to help. Is therapy going to do anything? Because when you have an abuser in the room in couples therapy, they just learn how to hide things. They just learn how to abuse you better. I don't know, not the asshole for this one, OP. And now, onto the update. Sorry for the late update. A lot of things happened since that last post. After that, I talked to him and said that I need some space to think about the situation. So I stayed with a friend. And during those, I got myself a job. It wasn't as high paying as my husband, but it's enough to support me and help with the bills. Also, for the people concerned about my financial situation, thank you. But don't worry, I have some unused savings in my account and emergency account that I opened back when I had my old job. After those days, he messaged me and asked if we could meet up. I agreed to talk to my husband. We met at the cafe, and it was awkward first, but I began the conversation. I told him how I felt humiliated and hurt by his words. I also said that if he'll always mention how it was his money, then he should have let me keep my old job. He apologized to me and said that he was just under pressure after what happened to his mother, who was sent to the hospital because she had an accident where she broke her hip. I wasn't aware of that. I told him that he should have opened up to me so I could have helped him emotionally or in any ways I could. I told him that I understand his situation, but I hope he never went down that route. Then I told him about my job. He disagreed at first, but I told him that it was non-negotiable. That the only way for me to agree to go back with him is if I have a stable and full-time job. And he didn't push it further. I suggested that we should go to a marriage counselor, and he said that it's one of the reasons why he wanted to meet me. So far, we already found one, and we're starting next week. We've been doing well, and the tension kinda went down after. For my parents and friends, I did open up about how hurt I am due to their lack of support. My mum understood and apologized, but my dad still believes that I shouldn't have gone down that way. To my friends, some of them were offended. Most of them apologized. It's still a tough situation, but I hope I'll get through it. Thank you for the people who commented on my situation. I did get scared too because of the domestic violence or abuse stories. I thank you for sharing your stories. I hope that you guys are doing well now. This situation made me realize that I do not want to be trapped with a man like that. I do hope that this wouldn't happen again. For the people who commented that this is fake, I admit that I changed details about my identity, but the situation that I'm going through is not fake. Also, to clarify, the money that I spent is for the whole month, not just that week. I'm sorry if I wasn't able to make that clear. I appreciate the messages and advice. Thank you for listening. Historical Pain 971 says, he didn't tell you that his mum was in the hospital? Why didn't he tell you? You are his wife. What kind of relationship is this? That's what got me. It's quite a move to go from insisting he provides, snapping at you for using that money to provide lavish meals he also wants, and only days later, blaming stress on his mum being sick. He sounds great, minus using his mum being in the hospital to justify being a prick and then failing to mention so until that far after the fact. He sounds so pleasant, aside from the limited stuff that we know about him. Your Average Plebeian says, I can't help but think he's only okay with OP having a job for now because he's already thinking of ways to sabotage it until she quits or gets fired, then prettying that up by telling her that she can help him doing something for the house or his family again, and then going apeshit once she's tied down tighter than the last time. I hope that OP acknowledges that he's on thin ice that is thinner than a hair's breadth, and one singular pushing of her boundaries is the only chance he gets this time. No more boiling water for her frog. And yeah, I agree. I think it's good to have a healthy dose of skepticism in these situations, and don't immediately apologize for these people that have done you wrong. Like, there was pushback for her getting a job of her own. He didn't just immediately agree with it like he should have. He was like, not so sure about you getting a job, huh? That doesn't sound great, And And then it's only when she was like, I'm not getting back with you unless I have this job, that he was like, you know what? It's a great idea. I'm okay with that. I'm actually okay with that. Just okay though, nothing more. I don't know. Am I going crazy here with my distrust of OP's partner? Because we've just seen too many abuses on here. I don't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Because like that last comment has said, it's only a matter of time before, it's potentially he sabotages the job that she gets or gets her fired. I don't know. I wish them all the best. I hope the relationship goes well into the future. Thank you for sharing the story, OP. And what do you guys think of it down below? Let me know. My mother-in-law said she never liked me, and now I don't want to host Thanksgiving. My partner and I have dated for a few years, lived together for 2. When I first met his mum, I was very nervous and wanted her to like me. I learned some customs that show respect and did them. I cooked meals from scratch for her that she loved. Holidays were hosted in our home. I would cook for days and serve the whole family, making sure every detail was perfect. Holidays were lovely. I never had times like that with my own family and was grateful to the point of tearing up many times. But not in front of my partner's family. My partner and I have a business that takes up much of our time, and I hadn't seen his mother much lately. So I planned a day to pick her up, take her to a local coffee shop she enjoys, and then to lunch. As soon as she saw me, she immediately commented that I had lost weight and complimented me multiple times, then asking to take selfies with me so she could post them on Facebook because I looked so pretty. I have had issues with eating disorders in the past, so the comments did make me feel weird, but I knew that she was trying to compliment me, so I didn't say anything. We went to lunch, and she wanted to take more selfies, and was again complimenting my looks. She said, "You were okay before, but you were too overweight." I don't know why this hurt me, but it did. I blinked back tears, and then the food came. I couldn't eat it, and I found myself pushing food around and only taking some bites of dry salad. My partner and mum ate, either not noticing that I wasn't really eating or not commenting on it. I didn't want to cause a scene because, again, I knew she was trying to say something nice, but she's very blunt. She's not aware that I used to starve myself. She probably wouldn't have said it if she did. After lunch, she needed to go to the restroom, so I helped her. She's in her 80s and uses a cane, but needs to be steadied. While she was washing her hands, she told me, I never liked you, but you're okay now. Granny, stop. That did it. I couldn't hide the hurt anymore. I teared up and stammered awkwardly that her son would be right back to help her to the table. I went to the table and I quietly told my partner that I would take an Uber home, that I was upset about something his mum said, but I would see him at home. His mum tried to call me, but I decided not to answer. I guess the reason I'm feeling so upset is that I'm feeling like I'm only worth something if I'm thinner. I also thought that she always liked me. She acted like she did, but now it feels fake. I don't want to host Thanksgiving anymore. Why should I kill myself cooking for days for someone who only really liked me when I lost a few pounds? My partner thinks I'm overreacting and that I misunderstood her. He said it's normal for mother-in-laws to not like daughter-in-laws at first because we take away their sons, but I didn't take him away. He is the one who hasn't made an effort to spend much time with her. Every time we have seen her, it's because I organized it. But she's old, and she's a blunt Asian mother, and she doesn't know that I had eating disorders. So am I the asshole for wanting to cancel Thanksgiving? Should I just forgive her and suck it up so that the family has a nice Thanksgiving together? Am I being a huge baby? In the comments, Confident Cat says, "No, not the asshole. That's just downright insulting. I don't see what good would come from those words." Her mother-in-law's comment about her never liking her would cut anyone deeply, and it's perfectly valid to feel unmotivated to host after that. Cooking for days for someone who doesn't appreciate her is exhausting emotionally and physically. It's not unreasonable to step back from hosting when she's feeling disrespected. Her mother-in-law's words were harsh and dismissive of the effort that she put into the relationship. Not the asshole. You have a partner problem. Being older or Asian is no excuse to be a bitch, and he needs to be on your side, not mummy dearests. Yeah, I mean, there's no cultural filter that you can say. In Chinese culture, when they say I don't like you, they actually mean something else, and that it's a term of endearment, that they like you now. Well, not that they like you, but they're okay with you now. They can stand your presence, whereas before, they hated the thought of you. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a culture that can twist itself into a pretzel like that and, say that hatred is actually a good thing. And even if I were to give it the benefit of the doubt, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and damn did this woman pave a shoddy road at best. So no, OP, you are creating and maintaining boundaries that you do not want her to cross. It's up to him to bridge that gap with his own mother if he's not bothered to do the hard work. If this 80-year-old Asian mum becomes, a pariah to you guys, I think that's on him for not doing his best to be a middle ground between you guys that fights for fairness and what's right. He will only have himself to blame for not doing more. So yeah, not the arsehole, and I think you shouldn't invite her over unless some major change happens. And now, onto the update. So after speaking to a Filipina friend of mine and reading everyone's comments and calming down, I decided to talk to mother-in-law. She indeed did not mean to hurt my feelings or say anything with bad intentions. Yeah, right. She really thought that she was just complimenting me. She was very sorry for hurting me and wants to move on, and she says she accepts me and loves me. Honestly, I've had a rough couple of months with unrelated issues, and I think her comments yesterday were just the straw that broke the camel's back. My boyfriend did get defensive when we talked about what happened, but he agreed to back me up if it happens again and talk to her about not mentioning my weight. He also supports me for correcting her or letting her know if she's being rude in the future. As far as Thanksgiving goes, I decided that the family being together is way more important than my hurt feelings. I do enjoy making it nice for everyone. We don't know how many years she may have left, and I think I can let this incident go for now. I'm not confident that she will change, but I can probably handle anything for a couple days a year. In the comments, Zesty Clothes Society says, in Asian cultures, commenting on weight loss is definitely taken as a compliment, though I don't understand what was the need of the comment made in the washroom. Yeah, telling someone you never liked them, but now you think they're okay, doesn't sound good whichever way you try to interpret it. That's why Bilbo made it difficult to interpret and then effed off forever. I don't know half of you as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. Such a good line. I'll be going now. Velvet Swing says, I hate to say it, but all my East Asian friends' mums are very blunt about weight too. I do think it's a bit cultural, but good for OP for speaking up. It's unacceptable for most people. Yep. Honestly, my mum and aunts have said much worse than OP's mother-in-law. She's going to need a thicker skin. The good news for her is that the mum is 80, so this is, shall we say, a problem that time solves. Unintentional Wipe says, quote, he said that it's normal for mother-in-laws to not like daughter-in-laws at first because we take their sons away. It's not normal. Normal would be the mother-in-law being happy that her son found someone who loves him, and as long as the daughter-in-law isn't crazy, there would be affection there. It's actually weird if the mother-in-law hates the daughter-in-law for taking away their sons. Seeing your kids married or with someone is something that all parents want. So to be angry about it is some Freud craziness that needs therapy to fix. Yeah, just weirdness all around. And people that support, oh, you're taking this son away. So she has every right to. Very weird from those people as well. What? Second update. I'm now realizing that all the compliments my mother-in-law was giving was her trying to make up with me. Before this lunch, we didn't see her for 3 months. Yes, we have been busy with work, but honestly, I stopped messaging her weekly and making plans because she had texted me in all caps after I had an argument with her son. I was mad at him for telling his mum about our argument, and mad at his mum for getting involved and essentially yelling at me over text. I didn't say much back to his mum, and just stopped responding to her. Someone explained the concept of tampo in the Filipino culture to me. When you're upset, you distance yourself from the person who upset you, basically, until they grovel or make it up to you somehow. Without realizing it, that is what I was doing to her. So when she saw us, she gave me a bracelet and was giving me a bunch of compliments. She was trying to make up with me, except I didn't see them as compliments because I'm a white American who was taught that commenting on weight at all is inappropriate. Throw in prior eating disorders, and yes, of course, I was sensitive to the remarks and had a meltdown. Would I have preferred an apology and for her to not get too involved? Of course. But she grew up in the Philippines. It's a whole other culture, and I can't be so close-minded to think other people don't have different ways of thinking. Now she knows that it's not appropriate to bring up weight. She was so upset for hurting me when we talked to her that she was crying. I've never seen her cry. I know you guys don't think I was the asshole, but I'm thinking I was a bit of an asshole. I'm not too pleased with my boyfriend for getting so defensive about his mom. He has agreed to start couples counseling because there are clearly some issues there. Not an easy one to kind of tackle because, yes, there is communication issues with you guys and obviously a cultural distance between all three of you here. But again, I see this as it being his fault. He is the one with all of the information of both cultures. You two women do not have all the information of both cultures. He was too lazy to actually bridge the gap that he should have been bridging. All of this upset and all of this hurt caused between you two could have been avoided if he had communicated properly about the differences in cultures to both you and his mum. So I hope that he takes this as a lesson to communicate more and to understand that not everyone will understand everything and he should over-explain, especially if it's his culture. I just don't understand why he didn't hear you being upset about the weight thing and go, oh, I shouldn't get defensive about my mum. I should explain the difference straight away. Why did it have to get to this point for him to then be like, oh, now I'm gonna explain the cultural differences? I think couples counseling is such a good idea for these two, but I really think OP was being far too generous with her partner in this instance. Anyway, thank you for sharing the story with us. Very much appreciated, and I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Our next post is by user StrangeTemperature00, titled, "My sister-in-law licked my face, and now my brother is not talking to me. I am 22 male, and my brother is 28 male. He's been engaged to his fiancée for a few months now. She is 24. My brother's fiancée is your typical spoiled party girl, and to be honest, so is my brother. In the last year or so, my brother and I have had a strained relationship. This is mostly due to differences of opinion when helping taking care of my mum, who is struggling with some PTSD/anxiety. She got held hostage by a man at her job, is still recovering, and is not back to work yet. For some context, my brother is a very impatient and opinionated person who struggles to see things outside of his own perspective. He doesn't have a good grasp on mental health, he is easily persuaded by what he reads online, gets caught up in conspiracy theories, and I noticed that COVID and the pandemic kind of exacerbated all of this. I work as a paramedic, and he's been arguing with me about thinking that I know better than him ever since. I'm adopted, and my bio mom was of a different ethnicity, so we don't look like brothers. When he can't think of a way to win an argument, he brings up the fact that I'm not her real son or his real brother. It wasn't always like this between us, which is sad. He's just not the same person, and I'm not sure if it's work stress or life stress or what. I get that this post is going to be skewed by my perspective, but I will try to be objective when it comes to the conflict. My birthday was last weekend, when this happened. My brother's fiancée apparently had the idea to throw me a surprise party. Most of the people there were friends of my brother and the fiancée. Everyone was drunk. They made a bit of a show of bringing me out a cake and having me blow out the candles. Before I did that, my brother's fiancée swiped frosting on her finger and put it on my cheek. I thought that it was just her being nice and not trying to smash a piece of cake in my face. So I blew out the candle, and after I did that, his fiancée grabbed my face and licked it. Like, from my jaw all the way up the side of my face. I have no idea why she did this. We don't even have the kind of relationship where it would be funny. My brother's face changed. His demeanor changed. He became very withdrawn and irritable. They were seen quietly fighting, and he ended up just leaving the party. I brought it up the next day to make sure that he was okay, and apparently the two of them made up, and it's me that he has an issue with. I don't know what she told him, but it seems as if I'm the one being made out to be flirting with her, wanting her, etc., which is not even remotely true. I told him to leave me out of his relationship problems. It's his partner who disrespected him and embarrassed him. He's angry at the wrong person. I refuse to apologize. Apparently, I am going to be out of the wedding unless I do. He's upset because I won't admit to my mistake. Well, I don't feel like I made one. Should I just do it for the sake of settling it? Normally, I'm willing to be the bigger person, but this is a false accusation I don't want attached to myself. Am I the asshole here? In the comments, Calic Mac says, "Your brother and his fiancée are behaving like children. If you apologize for this incident, then it's likely that he will continue to treat you with disrespect. If he takes you out of the wedding, he will have to explain the reason to others, which should prove embarrassing to him and his fiancée. Perhaps you should call him on his bluff. Regardless, not the asshole." And OP says, "You know what? I'm not opposed to threatening him with that. Thank you." Rich Ad says, "Not the asshole. I wouldn't cave either. Here's what I think. It's cliche, but you're probably the hotter, smarter brother. Your brother has insecurity issues about his relationship, intelligence, and other things. So usually those people tend to get jealous easily and have paranoia about losing their partner to someone else. Not excusing the fiancée either, because she definitely tried to keep herself innocent and then put everything on you when your brother confronted her. It's a cop-out, but it's easier for him to pin it on you versus her. Her being closer in age to you, I bet she does have a crush, or at least some kind of attraction to you, and it came out when she was drunk. If she didn't lie, I wouldn't think that, but the lying means she's trying to cover up feelings maybe." Edit info, "Has she flirted in the past?" OP replies, "I never thought about it actually, and nothing really sticks out. She's obsessed with K-pop and I'm half Korean, so she's made comments to me, but I didn't interpret them as flirting. I thought she was just trying to be nice and didn't know how else to connect when I shared about the whole being adopted thing. When she's sober, she is more awkward and shy. My brother lives with my mum, so usually when I visit and we're talking, my mum and brother are around too, and it's more of a family vibe." Quotable Morco says, "Not the asshole. What I don't get is why you even would want to attend the wedding. You've got a strained relationship, he does not see you as a brother, the not your mum jabs. His relationship does not seem to be on the very stable footing, and he'll become more and more erratic. You should put as much polite distance between you and your brother/his relationship for your own peace of mind. He seems to have already singled you out as the future scapegoat." OP says, "This one hurts. I think I needed to hear it though. You're not wrong. I guess I'm just always trying to understand him, and I need to stop doing that. Especially when he's not giving me that same kind of understanding. I thought we could get back to the relationship we had before, but it's not looking like it's getting any better." I think as well, we gloss over the whole both of them were party boy, party girl kind of people, and it seems like the brother is not so much a party boy, but his soon-to-be wife is definitely still in the party girl, and mix that with a bit of I love K-pop. You can kind of see how, when she gets a few drinks in her and the inner party girl comes out, how something like this could happen, because that's very much something you do when you're single and at a party. It's a bit more socially acceptable there, but not your soon-to-be husband's brother at like a dinner that you guys are having together. What? Sorry, your birthday. At your birthday. That's so wildly inappropriate. And it was a surprise party planned by her. She shoulders the responsibility of that. and did that. That's just a wild, wild thing for her to do. I can see why she pins the responsibility on you for this one and convinced your brother that it was your fault and not hers, because that's the easier thing to do. For everyone, conflict avoidance and then shifting the blame is always going to be so much easier than being like, yeah, this marriage is in the dumps. I got what I wanted, and now it's time for you to get rid of your brother that you don't even like. That's the only way to salvage this relationship. So, no, you're not in the wrong for this one, OP. She's got something crazy going on upstairs. And now, onto the update. After trying to reach out to my brother, he finally came around and stopped ignoring me. He didn't want to talk about what happened, but was willing to put it behind us. To be honest, I think talking about it would have been healthier, but I decided to let it go because he was so adamant. Then, just the other day, he came to me on his own and admitted that he feels unsure about his relationship and is struggling to trust his fiancée ever since the incident on my birthday. I told him there's no rush to get married, and he should take time to figure out what he's feeling. I didn't try to give any particular opinion because I feel like this is something he needs to figure out for himself, and also, I genuinely don't know what's going on between them. He still took what I said the wrong way somehow, and we ended up having an argument. He thinks I'm not happy for him and don't want to see him successful and starting a family. I tried to walk away at this point in the conversation because no matter what I said, it was just going to get misconstrued. But he didn't want to stop fighting. Somewhere in that, I finally learned why he is so mad at me these days. It turns out he's pissed that our mum paid for my tuition. I've been doing overtime to pay her back. Clarification, if it matters, she doesn't actually want me to pay her back, as it was a gift, but I'd like to pay her back slowly. My brother feels that this money should have been given to him for his wedding, which I am no longer invited to. I don't really know how to fix things, but that's where we're at. In the comments, Shadow for Summer says, "Not the asshole, she assaulted you. Your brother should be mad at her and not you. Probably best just to go no contact, at least for a while." Equivalent Gap says, "Not the asshole. Your brother is a jealous asshole and his girlfriend is a creep. I doubt their relationship will last until the wedding, but if it does, I bet the wedding will be a drunken mess. You sound like a good person. Take care of yourself and your mum and leave your brother to deal with his problems. Hopefully one day he'll grow up and want a better relationship with both of you." And now on to update 2. My mum and brother got into it over the weekend. I've accepted being uninvited from my brother's wedding, but our mum wasn't having it. She was trying to understand where his anger is coming from. The problem is, I don't think he knows, and having conversations where he's questioned about it just makes everything worse. I wasn't present. It's something my mum called me about. Apparently after his explosion at her, he stormed out into the cold without shoes, and she got worried. I've realized that I'm not the person he wants to see in those moments, or the person he wants to receive help from. I want to be that person, and I'll always be available in the background, but somehow I've become part of his problem. My presence only ever fuels his anger. For that reason, I told my mum to contact his fiancée, and she did. Fiancé brought him back to the house, and my mum didn't mention the wedding or anything else. She told me today that they've started talking normally to each other again. I've also talked to my mum privately. I've made it clear that I'm not attending and that she should give up on having me there. She initially wanted to threaten her own attendance, but we decided that she should support my brother in the hopes of leaving a line of communication with at least one family member. My mum is really heartbroken. I thought about contacting his fiancée, but then decided against it. Reading a lot of the comments I received, many of you pointed out that I need to stop trying to fix things. Some people took it too far and wrote me violent little DMs because the last line of the previous update made them feel some type of way. But I've had people in the back of my truck say and do a whole lot worse. It takes a lot more than some words on a screen. But I get it, and I will acknowledge it actually, that I think that's one of my biggest flaws. The need to fix things. I won't get into why I'm like this. I probably need therapy of my own given the lengths that I'll go to and how maladaptive it sometimes gets. Anyways, promise I'm not fixing this. As far as updates go, this is probably my final one. I'm bowing out of my brother's downward spiral. It's the only thing I can do for him right now anyway. The rest I will deal with personally in time. I came on here for some perspective, and I feel like I've gotten that. So thank you. In the comments, Efficient Clue says, honestly, let the wedding happen and just create some distance between yourself and brother and sister-in-law. Hopefully in the long term he comes to his senses. And OP replies, that's exactly how I feel about it. Kiki Sioma says, I think you made the best decision that you could given the circumstances. You're dealing with someone who has yet to come to terms with the fact that all of his troubles are self-inflicted and his conflict is all internal. Brother probably thinks this marriage will give him some kind of upper hand or make him feel accomplished, like proof that he has his shit together. But the cracks are already starting to show. Stay away from the fiancé because she is infatuated with you. I don't know if you recognize that, OP, because you're so focused on your brother. And yeah, I hope that he realizes that too, because that clicked to me straight away. Why would you lick someone's face, especially your soon-to-be brother-in-law's face, if you were not infatuated by him? Because there is no other way to explain it. And you can see the proof in the pudding that when it was explained to the brother-in-law, it was turned on OP. Somehow her behavior was his fault. Okay, that makes so much sense. I think also OP is really mature for the self-awareness and self-reflection they've done, realizing that they're always trying to fix things. It's good to step back and realize you don't have to fix this, and more involvement from him will probably just make this situation so much worse. Just another example of pick your battles. Don't get involved with it if you don't need to, because more involvement, when it's so obvious from the wronged, quote-unquote, parties' point of view that you are the one that did them wrong, yeah, more involvement is not going to fix that. So yeah, I'm blabbing. Sorry for blabbing. I feel like that's the only real update we're going to get with this one. Hopefully there's another one in the future. But with that said and done, I appreciated that one, OP. That was a great, well-written account of your experience, and I appreciate it very much. I'd love to know what the community has to think of it down below in the comments. I think I messed up with my fiancé. At first I thought that it was an overreaction, but after posting on Am I the Arsehole, I've come to realize that I may have messed up big time. I overstepped my bounds. So my fiancé, 27, cut off his mother when he left for college when he was 18. His mother was a teenage mum that gave birth to him when she was 17, but according to my fiancé, she was not really there as a mother. She tended to prioritize her relationships with men, which put her and him in toxic situations at times. Well, her mother recently reached out to me on Facebook and asked to meet up, and gave me her side of the story. She was a young mother who wasn't always aware of her resources, so she made mistakes. She was essentially a child raising a child, and she really wants to make up for those mistakes. But my fiancé never gives her the opportunity, so she was hoping that I could convince him to just have a cup of coffee with her. I really felt a lot of empathy for her because, as my mum is also a teenage mum, although she made a lot of mistakes, she loves me, and I just can't imagine cutting her off. She couldn't have had it easy. So I invited her to my and my fiancé's apartment and waited for my fiancé to come home. I didn't want to blindside him, but when I mentioned his mother, he was not one to budge. He always thought the worst, so I felt like I needed to do it that way. In the comments, you're the asshole. You completely blindsided him. You knew he didn't want to see her. He comes home to her in his space and instantly feels betrayed. You broke the trust. He should absolutely be questioning your relationship. This is a trashy thing to do to the person that you quote-unquote love. OP replies, reflecting now, I feel like a total asshole and should have told him about the Facebook message, but I just wanted to hear about his childhood from another source, especially before we get married. And hearing what she was telling me, it just really made me feel sympathy for her, and it just reminded me a lot of my childhood. and I just feel like going without contact should be a very rare thing. And knowing how sore a topic his mother is, I just wanted to help him resolve it. I really do love him." Someone else asks, "Did your fiancé's mother even know his address before all of this? Or did you just reveal to her where he lives so she could pester him and grovel to him even when you're not around, since she now has his location? Do you even know what she actually wants from him? Maybe she became homeless or struggling and is only reaching out to apologize and eventually ask for his financial help. It's not your place to save her, him, or their relationship, which stopped existing ages ago. What if one of his mum's boyfriends assaulted him and he couldn't talk about it to you? Apologize and assure your partner that you would never make decisions involving him without his consent ever again." And OP replies, "She didn't know our address before this, but we are planning to move in a few months." Someone else says, "It seems as though you have no idea what trauma his mother put him through when he was a child, and you thought that it was a good idea to unknowingly bring the very source of that trauma into his own home to confront him with it after he had repeatedly told you that he wanted nothing to do with her. I too would be rethinking my pending marriage to someone who did that to me. You have no idea how gut-punchingly traumatic that may have been for him. Your only hope is to fully admit to how much you effed up and see where the cards fall from there. Anything less, and you will be continuing to completely disrespect him and his boundaries and his wishes. And as a potential wife, that is a disaster. It will be up to him. Admit how badly you messed up, tell him that you want to make it up to him in whatever way you can, tell him you understand that his boundaries were violated, and you have learned from this situation and will never do it again. Oh my god. I have a toxic brother that I wish to never see again, and if after telling this to my partner, they ambushed me like that, it would be over." OP replies, "I do have an idea of what his mum put him through. Technically, he was abused by her significant other, while his mum was manipulated or unaware to the situations. My boyfriend told me that his mother never outright abused. It was more on her partners, and his mum told me that she was manipulated and unaware of the situation, and if she had known, she would have done anything to protect her baby. I just thought that was something my husband needed to hear, instead of holding so much resentment for his mum. Now thinking back, I should not have ambushed him, but he's known me for 6 years, and I know that he knows I didn't do this with bad will or intention. Is this one mistake in the whole 6 years we've been dating really going to end us getting married, erasing all those years of us being together over one mistake? That's just wild to me. I really hope most of you are wrong and that he gives me another chance." Back up to the post, there is an update. "So I know now that I have made a huge mistake. Me and my boyfriend had another conversation, and he told me that he's having a hard time getting past what I did, but he thinks that we should go to couples therapy to try and see my point of view, because he just can't understand why I didn't take his word for it. He thinks this way we can both understand each other's perspectives and learn how to deal with it if we come across something like this when we get married. So we are pausing wedding plans for now, but he is still my fiancé. I have sent his mum a message to not contact me again and that I can't be a middleman. And after that, I blocked her. I know now the degree of my mistake and am going to do better in the future. I genuinely didn't mean to undermine what he went through as a child." I think in situations like this, it is good to come to neutral third parties to ask about your mistake, especially seeing the reaction you get from your partner and knowing, oh shit, this is something I didn't think through enough. And I do question myself if OP had more critical thinking and sat down on this one some more and was like, should I spring this person up on him and should I not communicate this to my partner of 6 years? Yeah, if you just sat on that thought for a bit, maybe write down those thoughts, you can come to a conclusion that, oh, this might be a bad idea. Maybe I should talk to him about it first before doing this and surprising him. I don't know. I just don't understand how some people can get to 28 years old and lack critical thinking like this. It's astonishing. And now, on to the update. We broke up. Me and my fiancé tried to work it out, but his mum kept visiting us, kept waiting outside of our apartment, and it put a mental strain on my boyfriend. Our lease isn't over yet, so we couldn't leave, and my fiancé, well, I guess my ex-fiancé, said that anytime his mum visits, he can't help but feel an overwhelming resentment. He said that it wasn't fair to me and him because he doesn't want us to be in a relationship built on resentment. 6 years thrown down the drain. I guess you guys were right. I really don't know how to move on. We were together for 6 years. We've grown so much together, and a part of me can't really fathom a reality without him. Is there anything aside from therapy, as he is already in therapy, to help him with the growing resentment, or is it just over between us? We still plan to live together for 3 months. Please be nice. I am too embarrassed to talk to my friends about this. In the comments, Astro Can You Not says, "Nothing drives me crazier than people assuming you're wrong about the boundaries that you've explicitly set. It's sheer arrogance dressed up as concern. Basically, I know what's good for you more than you do. And to give away their home address? Why couldn't she at least be an asshole at a neutral location? Then maybe they could have worked it out as a couple without the constant reminder of the violation. I'm not saying that she deserves that, although I always hope people learn from their mistakes, but it comes off less like arrogance and more like a lack of foresight and naivety. She was played like a fiddle because she couldn't fathom holding a single mum responsible for their mistakes, even one that enabled abuse." Jenno Al replies to that, "I've found that people who push for others to reunite with their toxic family just straight up cannot comprehend what having an abusive home life is actually like. That baffles me. I was adored as a child. I still am. It made me very aware of the differences between other families and mine. The lack of compassion for your own people and the ocean of compassion for strangers is something that I will never understand." Yeah, just tale as old as time, that one, huh? Just, yep, ocean of compassion for the stranger that did your partner wrong, but seemingly no compassion for your partner who has clear boundaries that you just go and violate. And again, I'm gonna say, just huge lack of critical thinking from her there. Like, please, don't go giving your home address away. That is so brain dead. She only has herself to blame for the dissolution of her marriage, or her potential marriage. I'm sorry, but that's just so genuinely dumb that she did that. She is such a dumb person for imploding that relationship, and I hope that she learns from this and doesn't do this to another partner in the future. And I don't know, is it wrong for me to say that her ex-fiancé dodged a bullet now, even after 6 years of a great relationship? I don't like punching down on people, but I feel like some people just need that slap of reality. Regardless, thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. Thank you for being completely honest and transparent about your experiences and not trying to sugarcoat them. I actually can very much respect that. I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Let me know. Am I the asshole here for telling my fiancé that my stepdaughter isn't mine? Sort it yourself. I'm a 27-year-old man. My fiancé is 30. We've been together for nearly 4 years. I have a 6-year-old son and she has an 11-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. Up until now, we've never had any issues regarding the children. Yesterday, her daughter was set to go on a camping trip for a friend's birthday, where they'd be doing activities like kayaking. My fiancé dressed her in a dress, and I mentioned to her that it didn't seem like the right choice for the occasion. She seemed offended and said that her daughter could wear whatever she liked and that it wasn't a man's place to judge. I tried to clarify what I meant, but she cut me off by saying, "She's my daughter, not yours." I took my son to a pre-planned match when my fiancé rang me. It turned out the birthday girl's mum had told her daughter that she couldn't go in a dress and needed to wear a tracksuit or something similar, so they didn't let her on the bus. My fiancé then asked if I could leave the match early to drive her daughter to the activity center. I replied, "Why should I? She's not my daughter, and I'm here with my son." Neither of us are talking now. I do pity for my stepdaughter, and I wasn't being spiteful. My son was looking forward to it, and it would be around 4 hours of travel. Am I the asshole here? Reasonable Ruin says, "Who sends a girl kayaking in a dress?" Or someone who clearly has never been kayaking. Prize Crow replies, I've never been kayaking either, but common sense still tells me that a child in a dress is wildly inappropriate for the activity. Just Geese Meme says, not the asshole. I'd have been snappy too. You tried your best. But you also need to clear up what your roles are meant to be with your kids here. Either you are some kind of parent and expected to help, or you're a random, unrelated person who needs to keep their nose out and you don't do shuttling them about. The second sounds like a not great environment for a kid, but they can't expect you to just do chores for them on demand, but also be treated like an irrelevant stranger when it suits them too. Mango Saint Juice says, lol, you tried to help her and she told you to butt out. Make sure you get an apology. And OP says, yeah, I'd say I'll be waiting for an apology. Bella Zale replies, dollars to donuts, you'll be waiting for a while. I'm gonna say this just in case. While waiting, be sure to spend time with your stepdaughter. Don't let her get caught in the middle between you and her mum butting heads. Regardless of who's the asshole, it's not you, but that's irrelevant. She doesn't need this shit. And OP says, yeah, I'm taking her and my son to the camp next weekend instead. We won't do the camping part, but we'll do the activities. That's of course if I'm allowed to take her. My fiancé is obviously invited too, but only if she wears a dress. I'm joking. Blooming 607 replies, it's clear that your fiancé misinterpreted your intentions. You weren't attacking her or her daughter, you just saw a practical issue with the outfit. If she addressed her daughter appropriately in the first place, you wouldn't have needed to comment at all. But instead of recognizing that, she got defensive and made it about you, which just made things worse. If she'd taken a second to hear you out, instead of taking offense, maybe the whole situation could have been avoided. Not the arsehole. She can't be a snarky person and still expect you to help. She made her choice, and choices have consequences. This relationship isn't lasting much longer. And good. She sounds like a red flag. OP replies, yeah, I didn't want to sound like a drama queen, but I'm very surprised what she said and am questioning some stuff. I see my stepdaughter as my daughter and would have expected the same with her and my son. I'm not saying I don't have a favorite child, but I do love them both. I completely understand that. I think there is an obvious double standard going on here that has just been beaten to death already. I understand that. I don't understand how a 30-year-old woman is acting like such a child, but hey, that's the world we live in. I also don't understand why she can't own up to her mistake and be like, you know what? I was wrong. I'm gonna do the 4-hour round trip now, and we'll talk about it afterwards. I'm sorry that I yelled at you and said that. She is just as much your daughter as your son is just as much my son. I made a mistake. I'm wrong. Why can't people just do that? Why do they have to say, I'm right, by the way, even though I made a mistake, and also you need to take my daughter there, you stranger? Some people just never grew up past 12 years old, did they? And now, onto the updates. People wanted an update and I wanted a rant. So I had a conversation with my fiancée, and she asked why I would say something so hurtful. I replied that I was just repeating what she had said to me earlier. Then she asked if I loved her daughter, and I said I did. She asked if it was as much as I loved my son, and I responded, almost as much. She got cranky. I asked her if she loved my son, and she said no. I asked her if she loved me, and her answer was, sort of. She started crying, woke up her daughter, and told her they had to leave, though I hadn't told them to go. I don't like her. She pisses me off. What is wrong with this woman? I said we could talk about it tomorrow, but she insisted, saying that he doesn't want us anymore. I told her that I never said that. Her daughter began crying and didn't want to leave, but her mother said, don't let me leave on my own. He doesn't want you. I reassured them both that they were welcome to stay. My fiancée decided to leave without her daughter, and now she's not answering. When I spoke to my daughter's father, he just laughed and said that she couldn't even hold off on the crazy until after the wedding. Oh no, that's a tough line. Shay7809 says, well, her daughter's father said it like it is. Better you found out before you got married. Don't even consider it. She actually said she does not love your son. Imagine the life you'd be giving him if you stayed together. Yes, that poor little girl though. OP, please contact someone in her life that is stable and possibly child protective services. She's going to have a hard time with this. Totally not your fault. Weaponizing your kid's emotions to hurt your partner is next level stuff. Last Unicorn says, she flat out told you that she doesn't love your son and she sort of loves you. Wow, you avoided even more drama than was starting to brew. You and your boy deserve so much better than a no and sort of. Expensive Wish says, I second this. I also wonder how she treated OP's son. OP says, my son is very upset by her going. Her daughter less so. Apparently I don't toast Pop-Tarts as well as she did according to my son. Asked to Assassin replies, I know this is not a laughing topic, but that's pretty frickin' funny. Kids are phenomenally unhinged. It's probably for the best. I do hope that he gets in contact with someone that can at least be there to step in if need be. Because from the sounds of it, and I know I'm making assumptions here, but she does not sound well. And I don't think that that's a good environment that kid should be in. I do question if it's enough of a red flag for her to have her child taken off of her. I think that's a bit too extreme, but I think if the father, who is obviously still in this child's life, can do it, he should push for full custody. But yeah, I don't know if the courts would back that, because do they have enough evidence that she's enough of a threat to warrant him getting full custody? I don't think so. Shit situation all around, but at least OP can get the hell away from that relationship, that nuke about to explode if he were to marry her. Oh my god. Thank you for the story, OP. I appreciate it, and I'd love to know what you guys think of it down in the comments. Our next post is by user ComplexLife9849, and it's titled, My husband and I took in my best friend and her 3 young children, and I'm regretting it. My 30 female, best friend, 29 female, just recently lost her husband, home, car, and all income. Her husband suddenly passed away and was the only one working while she stayed at home with her 1-year-old twins and her 4-year-old. They had nowhere to go, so we took them in until she can save up enough to get an apartment. There was no life insurance. My husband isn't happy that they are here. He's told me that he doesn't like my friend at all, that she has taken me away from him and has taken his home away. He is paranoid that she is stealing our things when we aren't home and wants to put locks on our bedroom and office doors, as well as put cameras in them. Today, my friend went into our room to smoke a cigarette on our patio to take a second away from our kids when we weren't home. She called me to tell me that she was going onto our patio, and my husband started freaking out. Now he says he feels like he needs to get an apartment and that he doesn't feel safe. He doesn't have a place in our home that they don't have access to. It breaks my heart that he hates my friend so much when she hasn't done anything. She's just going through one of the toughest times in her life. But I don't know if I'm being too trusting of my friend and inconsiderate of his feelings, or if he is being too paranoid. Man with no name says, I think there needs to be a discussion of a timeline for when she is leaving. He agreed to take her in the short term. At least that's the impression I got reading this, so he needs to chill a bit about them living in his space. That being said, suddenly having another woman that he doesn't like and 3 kids in the house is understandably not awesome. I think the solution is to set a timeline for when she is leaving. Help her find a place as her friend, but stick to the timeline. Monty says, and set some boundaries about what areas of the house that she and her kids have access to, and which are off limits. Just because you're staying at someone's house doesn't mean you get to treat it like it's your house. Husband is in the right for not wanting OP's friend in their bedroom, bathroom, and office. If she can't show immediate respect for that, then she needs to be kicked to the curb. I'm sure she would feel much more confined and restricted at a shelter. OP, this is your place to set and enforce these boundaries, not your husband's. I commend you for wanting to help a friend in need. I think your heart is in the right place, and that you should indeed let her stay with you short term, but you also need to understand the position you have put your husband in. Imagine if he did the same with a guy friend that you were not fond of. Imagine you dealing with that male guest going into your bedroom. You have to put your husband first in this situation. If hubby wants some security cameras, then let him get them. They are cheap. If you don't want to lose your husband, you better talk to your friend. One thing is giving access to your private space while being single, but giving her access to a marital space is not okay. It's not only your bedroom now. Let your husband put cameras and locks to those doors if you don't have the courage to talk to her. I know she's grieving, but is she looking for a place? Is she working or looking for arrangements with childcare to start job hunting? If she doesn't, then there's not much you can do. Also, why are they having access to the home office? Even if there was no talk about it, she must know that there's limits, and a home office is as private as a bedroom, because that's where most people may store valuables. It's time to choose, girl. OP replies, I agree that she should not have gone into our bedroom while we weren't home, and that I need to re-establish these boundaries with her immediately. I have no problem with him putting the cameras and locks up if it makes him feel better, even though I will be talking with her. I don't have the option to be too afraid to talk to her. My husband is my priority over her feelings. She's waiting to get approved for government daycare assistance, but yes, she is actively looking for work and daycare. She's only been with us for 1 month. The office door is always locked, and she's not gone in there at all. And she's not gone into our bedroom besides that one time. I guess that I'm aware of. Topper BR says, not to mention that her husband is Chinese, which means other culture, other way of dealing with things. They're known to be very reserved comparing to Occidental people. And from OP's post history, it seems that their home is a constant shelter for any friend of hers. I would be freaking out too if I had gotten married and ended up running a shelter for people, not being able to be with my family and my family only for some time. And we're not even talking about all the other issues here. Who's paying the bills, who's buying food for them all, how even your very own bedroom is all of a sudden occupied by someone else. OP has to make a choice. Does she really want to be married? It seems to be the female version of the my husband got married but is still behaving like he's single story. OP says, yes, he is Chinese. Our home has not been a constant shelter, although I do need to be better at saying no to my friends in need. She's the second person to stay with us. The first friend was a disaster, and I won't make that mistake again. He was 100% on board with helping my current friend out. Her situation is heartbreaking, especially for her children. We did not want them to be homeless. There's a lot of details about their story that is just so effing sad. She has no bills, and she gets government assistance for food and diapers. Our room and the office are off limits, and I will be re-establishing these rules and boundaries today. She cannot and will not be allowed to do what she did again. I disagree that I'm acting single. We both agreed to help a family in need. But it's hard, and I'm realizing that I need to be more firm with her. But I cannot read the mind of someone who tells me that there is no problem until 1 month in. Yeah, and I understand that, bit of a lack of communication from both sides there. But at least OP is making a good middle ground choice to keep her out of the bedroom, as well as continue to keep her out of the home office. I don't think there's too much wrong with putting the security cameras up as well, if that's going to make your husband more okay with the situation. That's better than just straight up kicking the friend out. And I'm far more inclined to have empathy for the friend going through such a horrible experience and being shown kindness and gratitude by OP and the husband than I am to just say, you know what, it's time to kick her out. She's done the wrong thing here. And I get that we do absolutely need to take the husband's mental health, his emotions, and everything into consideration here. But it's just a hard one, isn't it? It's quite hard, and I think OP is doing the right thing and setting a timeline for her leaving. I don't know what else you could really do besides that. And now, onto the update. So this update is a few weeks overdue, but a lot has happened. It's so hard to fit every single detail of the situation in one post, especially while trying to respect my friend's privacy while going through such a rough time. But I took a lot of y'all's advice. I apologized to my husband and asked him what boundaries he has and what needs to change for him to feel more comfortable. We did have this conversation before they moved in, but things are so different than expected. I realized that I was putting my friend before my husband, and it was a harsh wake-up call. My husband wasn't thinking about leaving me, but he was definitely unhappy. I'm glad that we had this talk because we've been a lot happier being on the same page. Well, we sat down and talked to my friend, and it went great. She apologized for going into our bedroom when we weren't home and agreed that it was unacceptable and will not happen again. I told her the bedroom and study were off limits, no exceptions. Her children need to keep their toys in the playroom that we made for them and not downstairs, so they aren't taking over the entire house. She agreed to these things completely. We changed the door locks on the 2 rooms, as well as added cameras and a safe for valuables. Most importantly, we told her that she needed to get a job and her children in daycare ASAP, and gave her a hard deadline of April 1st. She took the whole conversation really well and said she needed this to happen so she could get out of her sadness and start building her life for her and her kids. 5 days later, she got a job and found a daycare for her children. It's been a complete switch in the energy in the house. My husband and I are spending more time alone in our home together, and all of our set boundaries have been respected. To everyone that said they would never take in their friend and 3 kids, that's exactly why she has nowhere else to go. No one said yes. It's been rough on everyone, but my husband and I are confident in our decision to help, even more so now that we both feel listened to. He has also worked on his anger towards said friend and feels more at ease while talking to her and existing in the same space. It also helps that he sees that she is taking our rules and deadlines seriously and acting accordingly. Reddit obliterated me, and while I don't agree with kicking her out, I appreciate the brutalness that made me realize I was not backing my husband the way that I vowed to. Top ad says, "Congratulations all around. You two handled it great. That was very kind and a great thing that you two did. Like you said, there's not too many people who would do it. Me and my husband would. We've let family stay with us before. The key is always set rules and boundaries. It helps things go smoothly. I'm glad that she found a job. It'll help feel so much better getting out, meeting people, etc. Communication is a marvelous thing. That talk could have soured really easily. I'm glad the friend took it as encouragement rather than a threat. Communication is only good when both parties are willing to listen to the other person. If you have one that isn't, it's only getting worse." Zoppa Clone says, "Best result all around. Feel bad for the husband as he had been burnt once before. However, I'm glad the OP looked after her friend. My ex made me and our kids homeless by changing the locks on us, and I spent a month living with my 2 kids in their spare room. Never met the husband before the day we moved in. I spent that month getting a job and getting money together for a rental. Haven't seen my ex since, and he doesn't see our kids, but we do see my friend and her husband regularly, and I would do anything to help them if they ever needed it." Stock Enthusiasm replies, "Totally. The comments about how the friend should be getting such and such assistance, like she was taking advantage. Sometimes everything falls apart and you need some help. OP was a great friend by being there. I'm glad she could resolve things so her husband felt okay too." And I'm glad that it did resolve in the way it did. It sounded so rough for such a long time there. And I added so many comments to that story because there was so much context that was left out of the initial story. I get why people do it, but I don't like that people will jump on them and say, "Oh, this woman who just lost her husband and is without a job and has to support 3 kids should be on assistance, and she is taking advantage of you guys. You need to kick them out right now." Like, okay, you're not someone that is going to help out a friend in need, so you are not a friend indeed, okay? And it makes me think of my situation and my social circles around me, and I wonder how many people would take me in if, I had a wife that died and then I was jobless and had 3 kids that needed to be sheltered for a bit. It's all well and good having friends, but how many are really going to support you in a situation like that? It's scary. Anyway, thanks for taking the time to listen to me yap. And thank you, OP, for providing the story for us today. And I hope, things continue to go well with you and that friend. My sister and friends talked about how I'm not good enough for my boyfriend. They don't know I heard, and I don't know what to do. Firstly, my sister and this group of friends are what I consider my closest friends. I love these girls to death. I literally tried to donate a kidney for one of them. I'm 100% heartbroken. My boyfriend is an amazing guy. He is kind, funny, smart as hell, and is pretty much a model. He's just gorgeous and asexual. This isn't a problem to me, and we worked it out. He's also very open to it, and everyone knows, which I entirely support. We were supposed to hang out a week ago, but after spending about half an hour, his job called him and he had to leave. This didn't bother me a lot because I had a killer headache and went home. My sister and I share an apartment to save money, and we have a year-long lease, so I guess I'm screwed. Long story short, I closed my door, didn't light up, and got a nap. Next thing I know, I wake up to my sister's voice. She and those friends were at our house, and from what I've heard, they were going to a club and were drinking a bit / waiting for the others. I didn't get up because I was lazy and would have to put on pants. Then they started talking about me. I'm not proud, but I was curious. They were talking about how they couldn't believe I was dating my boyfriend, how he was too good for me, how I was too ugly to get a guy like him. My sister then started telling them how being asexual is obviously an excuse to not have sex with me. I'm not pretty, and while it does make me insecure, I know I have other good characteristics, but it was very hard hearing that. They also made fun of my learning disability. They called me the R word, which I can't even effing write. That I wasn't even financially stable. They made fun of my job. They said that I had to beg to be banged. All of my friends laughed and all of them shit-talked me. I was crying pretty hard at that point. They left and I didn't know what to do. I went to bed and basically made myself scarce this week. I get up earlier, get home later, or stay at my boyfriend's place. I've answered their messages, but was somewhat cold. I know I have to talk with them, even if it's just to cut off contact, but I just can't open my mouth right now. I feel so ashamed and sad. My boyfriend is also worried, but I can't get what they said out of my head. I know it's not true, and my boyfriend is asexual, but I feel like I'm not worth being with him. My sister is my best friend. I effing told her how I feel so ugly and too stupid to be with him. I showed her our messages, and we spoke about his asexuality. I love her so much, it hurts. I can't stand looking at her knowing that she was saying those things behind my back, and that none of my friends said anything. I just don't know what to do. I could break my lease, I guess, even though it would be very expensive, but I don't know how to say why I'm doing it or how I can face them. I don't know if I should tell my boyfriend. Navi Mink says, "You should definitely tell your boyfriend everything you said in this post. You need his support, and he sounds like a good guy. Your friends are not your friends, and your sister is messed up. I would get out and limit contact with her. You should confront them individually and start with your sister first, but definitely tell your boyfriend about this and let it all out to him. He will be there for you, unlike your sister and her friends." OP says, "I guess you're right. It's stupid, but I feel so ashamed of it. I know she's the one that effed up, but this is so humiliating." Someone else replies, "Just know that we support you, even though we're strangers. You deserve so much love, especially after something like this, and do not talk yourself down. They should feel humiliated, not you. I understand what it's like to feel unattractive, but you can have all the beauty in the world, and if you're ugly inside, these girls obviously are, it ain't worth shit. Don't be so hard on yourself about your appearance. Us girls are really good at that. Distance yourself from those ugly souls. No one needs that negativity in their life." And OP replies, "You're right. Thank you. I've been trying very hard to work on my self-esteem, especially regarding my physical appearance, so that was a kick in the gut." The Outsider says, "Your sister is in all likelihood incredibly jealous. What she did was the worst betrayal out of this group. She's your closest confidant. You trusted her, and she is your sister. These people also aren't your friends. Even if not all of them hold this opinion, even if this builds slowly due to jealousy and the resentment that it caused, those who simply stood by allowed this to happen and did not challenge it. Tell your boyfriend. Possibly even tell your parents, and do confront your sister. It'll force her to be honest with you for once. And OP replies, I understand that she probably is jealous, but I still can't accept it. Rationally, I know what she did, but holy crap, my mind just can't seem to grasp it. I don't know how I can't to her. Just thinking about it makes me want to throw up. I'm terrible at conflicts. The outsider replies, oh, this betrayal is pretty damn bad. One of the worst non-cheating ones out there. What she did was absolutely horrendous. That you're averse to conflict and can't deal with it likely helped bring this about, as people assume that you won't stand up for yourself or confront them and thus feel they can walk all over you. Yeah, it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point. And as much as OP wants to avoid this and, not believe that this is real, I really think OP should bite the bullet and take the advice of these commenters. If not no contact with these people, incredibly low contact is needed and a serious conversation with the sister. This to me is a bridge too far in their relationship. Like, what the sister has done to OP, that's not something that you can so easily forgive, and it's not something you can so easily get over. I don't think their relationship is ever going to be the same after this. And now, on to the update. I showed my boyfriend the last post because I just didn't know how I could say it. He was very sad and disappointed, but being asexual, he has had his fair number of assholes. But he mostly felt angry for me and agreed with a majority of advice that I should confront her. We decided a letter would be the best choice since I actually write a lot of letters and it's not direct confrontation. I like writing letters for moments, like letters for when the person is sad, happy, angry, scared, etc. So I do have some technique, but this was, with no doubt, the hardest thing that I ever wrote. I decided to go for the simple and blunt. I told her that I heard what they said about me, and while I was willing to work on our relationship, I needed distance from her and this whole situation. I talked with my landlord, or landlady, and she was super sweet and had no problem breaking the lease. I offered to find someone to take my place, but apparently she has someone that could use the room, so that's cool. I intended to pack and leave the letter on her bed, but she came home early and caught me. I basically said screw it to myself, and told her that I heard them saying that I wasn't good enough and calling me names. At first, she tried to deny it, which I wasn't having. She then tried to justify and say that I was overreacting, but I just stared at her. Then she finally started to apologize and cry. At that moment, I actually thought that we might be able to save the relationship, but then she started making herself the victim. The main points were: 1. I just can't understand how hard it is to be pretty. Not even kidding. 2. I don't understand how she feels because I'm used to not being the best. Oh, Jesus. 3. It's not fair that I get a gorgeous boyfriend who is completely out of my league while she is single. 4. She feels embarrassed when we go out together and she has to tell people that my boyfriend is actually mine and not hers. And 5. She knows that asexuality doesn't exist and that we're just doing this for attention. I just kind of froze. I wish I had said something, but I just couldn't open my mouth. She then said she was going out to recover from our traumatic conversation and left. I just packed the rest of my things and left the letters on her bed. I'm currently at my boyfriend's place, but I'm looking for a free room that is not super far from my job. I also wrote and sent letters to my friends, quote-unquote, and then blocked their social media and contacts. I'm certain that they'll find a way to approach me as we work close, but I just don't give a damn. Besides all of that, last Friday I had dinner with my parents. I gave them an edited version of what happened, because I don't want to talk about my sex life, and that I broke the lease/blocked my friends. They said that I shouldn't be angry because it was true, and that the first time they met my boyfriend, they thought that I was playing a prank. My dad then started saying that I was very selfish by breaking the lease, and I shit you not, betraying my sister's trust, and that you don't do this with family. So, yeah, I've been ignoring them since this happened, as well as my sister. Overall, I'm fine. I actually feel more tired than angry or sad. In the comments, the outsider says, "Your sister sounds spoiled. Given your parents' reaction, I know who I'd blame. I'm sorry this happened to you, and that you had to find out how they view you and your sister. While it's sad to lose family, in this case at least for now, you'll be better off once you get over it." OP says, "Thank you. Yeah, I'm beginning to see it, and it breaks my heart." Nocturnal Insomniac replies, "Looks like there's a golden child/scapegoat dynamic in your family. It's sad you're facing this side of your family. Hopefully it leads you to break away from them and make your own family, quote-unquote. Good luck with your healing." Deleted says, "This is a little off topic, but I'm curious as to how your relationship dynamic works with your boyfriend. I don't know too much about asexuality, and you mentioned you have a disability. So if it isn't too personal for me to ask, how does your relationship work? How do you go about a sex life? I don't mean to be offensive or nosy, so apologies in advance. I'm just curious." OP says, "Don't worry. Asexuality is a scale, like the hetero/gay. At one side you have the asexual, and on the other, the allosexual. Between, you have different shades of grey. Some people don't feel asexual attraction, but don't really care about having sex if it makes their partners happy. Some really don't want to do it, some only feel sexual attraction for those they have an emotional connection to. It's a very diverse community. As for the obstacles of dating an asexual man, I guess it mostly falls into what you consider a deal breaker, what are your needs, etc. I can live without sex. I can live happy without sex. Again, it's about compromise. There are other things in my relationship that are more important to me than sex, and they are being met, so I'm happy. I guess it just goes down to, if you can't date someone without sex, that's okay. If you can, that's okay too. The only wrong thing is to start shitting on the rules." OP on if her parents always treated her sister as the golden child. OP says, "I checked out some of the links that people sent me, and I believe they did. Things like having to give her my clothes if she liked them, or having to eat her food if she didn't want any more. I don't know, I can see how some of the things they did were terrible, but saying they were abusive sounds too extreme." Bubbles the Horse says, "Man, that family is so trash that OP could look like a mashed potato, and she'd still shine like a diamond between them. Honestly, I bet she's average looking at worst too, just based on vibes, and everyone just tears her down because of her prettier sister." Quote, "Saying they were abusive sounds too extreme. Emotional abuse is still abuse. It can take some decades to unpack that your parents are abusive, unfortunately." Absolutely agree, and for some more unfortunate of us, you can be born knowing that your parents suck as well. And then you just gotta accept that reality and continue to exist in spite of that. I don't know which one's worse, knowing they suck or not realizing they suck until you unpack that. I'm gonna go for the former so I don't have to waste my time. But holy shit, this sister immediately turning it on OP is insane. Like, I'm coming to you with how I feel slighted. I've found you out for your terrible behavior. Instantly it gets met with, "Actually, this is your fault. This is not my fault. You're ugly and you don't deserve happiness." What? That's truly diabolical behavior. Like, who the hell do you think you are saying that as a response? And then the parents kowtowing to it. The parents agreeing with her, being like, "Well, you are kind of ugly, and we thought your beautiful boyfriend was a prank on us. Your existence kind of disgusts us." Oh my god, throw the family away. Throw them all in the bin. The basket of assholes is full when they join. This is definitely a situation where I don't blame you for going no contact with everyone and starting a new life. Absolutely understandable. I'd move to the other side of the country. I'd move to another country if I could. Just truly despicable behavior all around. Thank you for sharing the story with us, OP. I hope that it helps some other people that listen to these. And I'd love to know what you other people have to say down in the comments below. Our next post is by user BurningMan84, and it's titled, Am I the asshole for teasing my friend about not recognizing my kid, thus ruining her marriage and an unrelated engagement party? So me and my wife have a 5-year-old son. Our group of friends is mostly couples with kids as we're nearing our 40s, and so a lot of our meetings with friends now include meeting up as entire families, kids included. This can sometimes mean a lot of adults and a lot of kids. One person in this group, Emma, fake name, used to be my roommate in college. She was married and has her own kids, and we hang out with her and her husband sometimes in a group setting, but rarely on our own. Emma also tends to run late often. This is all relevant to the story. As our son is an only child, we sometimes worry that he wouldn't really learn to share or get along with our kids. To prevent this, and while I love spending time with him, I would sometimes preemptively nudge him to engage with other kids when we are in public playgrounds or at the beach or the pool. To that end, when I buy him a water pistol or an RC car or the like, I would often just buy 2 or 3. I'd get to the playground and play with him, and when another kid would show interest in the toys, I'd just go, "Oh, you want to play with us?" and hand him the remote or the pistol or whatever, thus getting the kids to play. This works great quite often, and I have a generally good relationship with the parents in our neighborhood. This is also quite relevant. One day, like a year back, my wife and I were planning to take our kids to the pool. I pack my large bag of pool toys, and Emma texts me. Her husband is away that day, and she's looking for something to do with the kids. I talk to my wife, and I tell Emma that we're going to go to our local pool, and she's welcome to join us, but we're planning on heading there early, so she can just join us whenever. We arrive at the pool pretty early and get a really good spot poolside, right by the shallows. I grab some water pistols, and me and my kids start playing world domination. I'm trying to take over the world and can only be stopped through the power of water pistols. It's a whole thing. The kid loves it. Soon, another kid is there. It's a kid from my son's kindergarten class. He's there with his mum. He, of course, is welcome to join us. We know the family, the mum and my wife are pretty friendly, and our kids often play together. So my wife says that she wants to go for a swim, and the kid's mum says that she wants to join her, and asks me if I'm okay with watching the kids. I say sure, since by this point the kids are blasting each other with water pistols, and I'm just chillin' poolside, just occasionally having to call out, "Oh no, my plans for world domination, ruined!" Because sometimes that's just what parenting is. Then Emma and her kids show up. She's really happy to see me, and I give out toys to her kids. All is going well, then my son's friend runs up and asks for some other toy, and I go, "Sure thing," and hand it to him. Emma goes, "Oh my god, so cute, he looks just like you." I laugh and say, "Okay, cool, but this isn't my kid." Now, in her defense, the kid does kinda look like me, making this kinda hilarious. When my wife and the kid's mum come back, I tell them this story. They also find it hilarious. We all have a friendly chuckle but think little of it. Fast forward to a few months ago. I haven't seen Emma in a while. We're at a friend's group gathering, and it was a good time all around. When we're about to call it a day, Emma and I are at the entrance, she's grabbing her stuff, and I'm on my second trip from the car. Kids' toys, kids' clothes, dirty dishes, Tupperware with leftovers I want, etc. And I call out to Emma's husband and I say, "Hey, can you call my wife and kid over? Just make sure that it's actually my kid and not some random kid who kinda looks like me." I think it's a hilarious callback. He seems confused and kinda angry. He asks what the hell I'm talking about. Why would he call a random kid? I'm also confused, so I tell him the pool story. He doesn't laugh. Emma doesn't laugh either. The entire thing now feels kind of awkward. I awkwardly say goodbye, go grab my wife and kid myself, and we leave. Later that day, I text Emma to ask if everything's alright. I get no reply. I text again a few days later, no reply. I get the distinct sense that I messed up, but also if she doesn't want to talk to me, I'm not going to force the issue. I leave her well enough alone. At worst, I thought she was mad at a joke that I made, which was apparently in poor taste. Boy, howdy, did I underestimate the fallout of this joke. A few days ago, I arrive at a friend's place and she's there. This is an engagement party, so no kids. I wasn't supposed to come, but I decided to last minute, and my wife was at home with our kid. Emma sees me and is livid. She wasn't expecting to. She only came because she thought that I wouldn't be here. She does, however, take the opportunity to tear me a new one. She calls me out in front of everyone because of my joke, originally said with air quotes. Her husband was furious. From what she said and from what I gathered from mutual friends afterwards, she previously commented on someone else's kid looking like someone who wasn't his father. Except that whole thing led to family drama in Emma's husband's family because in that case, that dude was cheating and that was his kid and a whole bunch of people were really hurt in the aftermath. Emma's husband was furious because he apparently thought she would know better than to comment on kids looking like people again. This sent them down a spiral, especially because the husband apparently thought she told me that other family story and that I was mocking him for his family drama, and he thought the story that I told was just covering for her when I realized I effed up. This was not the case. I had no idea that whole thing happened. Still, he didn't believe Emma when she told him. So, they are now separated. She calls me an asshole and says I ruined her marriage. I am not a confrontational person. I apologized profusely. I say I didn't know, and if she didn't want me telling the story, she should have said something. She tells me that I'm making excuses. This is now a scene. I apologize profusely again and leave quickly after, telling the couple a quick congratulations. I am later told that this was anything anyone could talk about at the party, and now the engaged couple are mad at me too. Emma is even more mad because now everyone knows her drama. I am unfriended and unfollowed on everything. Some friends think that I couldn't have known better and the joke was pretty benign. Other friends said that it was in really poor taste to throw her under the bus, and I am totally the asshole. Emma's best friend, who I also know from college, thinks I did know about the thing with her husband, and now I'm just covering my own ass to get away with being cruel. It's been a few days, and some of my friends will no longer talk to me. Others think that she is wrong to blame me, and that marriage was doomed anyway. Still, I feel really guilty about making the joke, and I obviously wouldn't have made it had I known the trouble that it would cause. I like Emma, and I didn't want to hurt her. I also liked her husband. I'd like to say that maybe he was wrong to let that marriage implode like that because of a stupid joke, but at the same time, I don't exactly know his family drama and their history, nor the specifics of his relationship with Emma, so I can't really say that he's wrong or overreacting. The entire thing just kinda sucks. My wife sorta got my back though. She thinks the joke was hilarious, and actually thinks me breaking up their marriage makes it even funnier because what the hell. She also loves crazy Reddit stories, so she sent me to post this. So at least I've got that going for me, which is nice. So, am I the asshole? In the comments, Deleted says, not the asshole. Emma's husband wanted an out, and you gave him one. It wasn't your fault, and you shouldn't have even apologized. There was nothing wrong with your joke. Honestly though, your friend group sounds like it thrives on drama, and you're probably better off not being friends with the people who took Emma's side. The sassiest panda says, not the asshole at all. And I love how she freaks out on you and publicly airs her dirty laundry, then blames you for everyone learning about the situation that she blurted out. Not the asshole, you had no ill intent. You seem like a decent guy. Hold your head high. You've done enough apologizing. Whatever happened to Emma's marriage isn't on you. This is actually all Emma causing her own downfall. Because what did OP do? Oh, is it a crime to be ignorant of the personal intricacies of someone else's relationship? Sorry for being a functional human being that is now the target of someone else's marriage imploding. Emma is completely to blame for all of this, and Emma is a terrible person for not being honest that OP had nothing to do with this and that OP had no idea. You didn't ruin the engagement party. You didn't ruin her marriage. This is all Emma's fault, and she needs some help, and she needs to fix this. It's not gonna happen, but you should get out and get the real story to these people and fix your relationships with them. Emma needs to be outcast for this, because what the hell? And now, on to the update. I am now updating you because the last few hours have been a lot. It turns out that when I wrote my post, I left out one critical piece of context. I thought that I was a regular person living a normal life. Turns out that I am Chaz, a side character on the worst Gossip Girl episode ever written. So after posting yesterday, reading replies and thinking it over, I decided to reach out to Emma one final time. Some of you thought that I shouldn't, and that these were, in fact, not my monkeys. Others made me realize that Emma was probably in a shitty situation with her husband and his family, and was actively being gaslit. Now, of note here, while as I mentioned we are not as close as we used to be very close. She helped me pick out a spot and let me borrow her car for my first date, with who later became my wife. She was a significant part of my support system during some very rough times in my life, and despite everything, I still felt like I cared about her and wanted to work things out. This is no longer the case. See, from my perspective, I thought we were good friends, and then when she met her husband, we naturally drifted apart, and then this thing happened out of nowhere. This was not what it looked like from her perspective. How do I know? Well, buckle up, because this is absolutely unhinged. So last night, before going to bed, I texted her a long, thoughtful message. I explained that I do apologize for the part that I played in ruining her marriage, and I understand that she is going through a tough time. I understand if she wants nothing more to do with me, but if and when she feels that she wants to talk it out, she is welcome to reach out, and I leave the ball in her court. I show this to my wife, and she's practically giddy. She tells me there is no way this shit doesn't blow up in my face, and I should have just cut my losses, like many of y'all said. Emma shows up at my house at around 7 a.m. unannounced. I ask what the hell. She says she really needs to talk to me. I call my wife to the door and explain this. She sends me off with this woman because she understands that this shit can only go poorly, and apparently she's here for it, and it's my own fault at this point. So, as I said, from my perspective, we were friends, we drifted apart. From her perspective, for the last 15 years, she's been playing some weird game of 4D chess. Or 2 different games of 4D chess? Apparently she had feelings for me back in college, and she was trying to nice girl her way into a relationship with me, by being there for me when my dad died, and when I was struggling with being single. She always gave me everything because she just assumed that I would, at some point, come around. You'd think that me getting married or her getting married would change that, and it did, just badly. Apparently her husband knew about her feelings, which is why he always kept me at a distance. We never drifted apart. He explicitly asked her to not meet with me anymore outside of large social gatherings. That day at the pool? Yeah, that was her sticking it to him, because he was away, cheating on her or something, and he didn't like her hanging around me scantily clad. It wasn't just that he was upset at the joke, he was upset because apparently I was having an affair with his wife and rubbing it in his face. Makes no sense? I know. It gets worse. The thing at the wedding? Well, at least she didn't plan that. I told our friends getting engaged that I wasn't coming. She asked and verified this. She wasn't expecting to see me, and they told her that I wouldn't be there. But once I showed up, she decided to exploit it. She intended to have a huge scene with me so that she could tell her estranged husband and friends that I ambushed her because she broke off our affair. What? What? Oh no. Our affair. Apparently we had an affair. Oh, what affair is that, you ask? I did too. Apparently, the story some people got was that she and I were having an affair, and it ended, and I was stalking her. Her husband left her because he found out. Some people more inclined to believe her just thought that was what happened and wanted nothing to do with me anymore. So why did her husband actually leave? Well, some of you called it. According to her, he was cheating on her a bunch and overall not a nice person. She never actually cheated on him, but used me to pretend that she did without my knowledge. So after the joke at the gathering, which may have indeed been in poor taste, they had a huge fight and he left the house. As for the thing with his family, from what I gather, it was some dude sleeping with his cousin's wife or some such shit. So anyway, she tells me all this insanity and tops it off with that my message really moved her and we can still be friends. The reason she rushed to show up at 7 a.m.? My message made her realize I am actually the one who really cares about her and everyone else in her life is fake and doesn't really care. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but now this sounds like some really manipulative shit to me. And now I'm thinking back to a lot of our previous interactions, and a lot of them also seem like that to me now. I am not a confrontational person. I was willing to accept that I messed up, and maybe some of you were right and the joke was in poor taste, and I'm a huge asshole for making it because I thought that if he knew the story, he would get the call back, and if he didn't, I would tell him a funny story about his wife. I accept all of that criticism. But this? Hell no, I was done. I tell her that I am done with her shit. She can get back to her husband, leave her husband, keep any friends she wants because I am effing done. I can forgive a lot, but she had been basically not communicating with me for over 15 years. I was telling her everything about my life and my feelings, and I was absolutely appalled by just how much of a one-way street it turned out to be. I feel like I didn't ever really know her. Maybe I played a role in that too, maybe I was self-centered or selfish and didn't consider her emotions or her signs. I don't know. And you know what? At this point, I don't think it matters. She lied to me so much. She lied to so many people so much. I just don't care anymore. I don't think there's anything left to this friendship to fix. And the worst part? I just gave you this huge update, and I genuinely don't know how much of it is true. Maybe she was completely honest with me, maybe she lied about everything and we're still playing 4D chess, who knows? Because I certainly don't. And that, more than anything, is why this friendship is over. Because even if I could forgive everything, I can never really trust her. So that's that. There will probably not be any more updates because this was meant to be a light-hearted post, and it turned into a total clusterfuck, and I'm just so tired and so sad. I'm sorry if this wasn't as readable or as coherent as my previous post. This just happened, and I am just exhausted. My wife has been very supportive, though I assume at some point I'm due some well-earned I told you so's. She knows there wasn't an affair, and certainly no stalking, and most of my friends probably know that too. I may try reaching out to some others because, well, I don't know, maybe they were told even worse things about me? But I'm just so done with this, and now I'm going to spend what's left of this weekend with my family and try to put this shit behind me. Thank you all for reading and for your advice. And there's another update, oh my god. Some of you thought that things were going to get pretty crazy. Before I give the update, I should probably clarify some things that were brought up in the comments. First, when I said we were roommates, I didn't mean we shared a literal room. We live off campus in an apartment with another friend. Each had their own room. Second, to clarify, and more on this later, the only person she told about having an affair with me long-term was her husband, now ex. Everyone else quote-unquote heard about it only after the engagement party outburst. Third, my house already has cameras and security. My dogs and her never really got along, so I don't think she's going to be trying anything anyhow. I suppose they were the first to know what's up? Okay, on to the actual update. While unfortunately I do not have the conversation with her recorded, I do have a text from a later time where she confirms making it up. I did not block her because my wife said that it might be better to let her incriminate herself further and have it documented. So I just let her do it for a while, and once I got her to admit that she made the affair up, I stopped responding. Got increasingly angry at text, but nothing yesterday, so hopefully that's done with. She said some pretty nasty shit about my wife, and I considered responding, but my wife laughed it off and said that's just how sore losers are, and I shouldn't engage any further, so I didn't. I also have screenshots from her husband where she talks about the affair she's supposedly having with me. How do I have those, you ask? Well, realizing just how much she lied about to me, it occurred to me that almost everything I know about her husband, let's call him Dave, comes, even indirectly, from her. And by this point, I suspect she might not be the most honest conveyor of events. So I took a risk and texted him to meet up. We had a long talk, and again, he might be lying, of course, but from what he said, he actually never cheated on her, though she often accused him of that. The innocent mistake she made with his family? Yeah, she felt his cousin's wife was being a little bit too familiar with him, Dave, and started actively spreading the rumor that the kid was his, maliciously. This, understandably, caused huge backlash, and was one of the many things which caused Dave to want to leave. The interaction with me in that context was just the final straw. Thinking of that now, the mistake she made with me might not have been so innocent, and I think she might have tried to start some shit if my wife and kids were less good-natured about the whole thing. So anyway, Dave is fighting for full custody, so that can get really ugly. I don't know the legal nuance of divorce, but I assume he's in for a shitstorm. He really likes a lot of our mutual friends and has been a part of the group for quite a while, so he doesn't really want to have to leave or anything. And to be fair, having talked to him versus Emma, I tend to agree. We talked for a long time, and he seems to be a pretty good guy. Though I have been wrong before, and I offered some support because, well, having read my posts, you can probably assume what divorcing Emma is like. He worries about it, and I understand him completely, so I offered support as best I could, and will probably continue to do so. So as for my friends, I sorta took y'all's advice, but not really. I didn't do a group text, but I did give a short summary of what happened, and some choice screenshots to most of my friends. This started some conversation, and a lot of tea was spilled. And some realizations were made regarding the fact that a lot of drama that plagued our group over the years can actually be attributed to misunderstandings attributed to Emma. More tea ensued. Wife is having a blast. So yes, some of my friends were gobsmacked since they didn't really hear Emma's story but understood what a clustercluck this was. Others were understanding. Emma's best friend blocked me, so she got nothing, but I suspect she would remain unswayed regardless. And I suppose that's good. Most people I talked to felt that we should probably cut contact with Emma, and that would be that. Her house in our neighborhood is owned by Dave, and she already moved out, so we're not supposed to be seeing too much of her day to day. I don't want to demonize her. I don't think she was evilly cackling as she tried to ruin lives. I think she's a very troubled person, and I still hope that she finds peace and friends and relationships that would help her through whatever the hell she is going through, and mostly a good therapist. But this is no longer my circus, and she is not my monkey, and so I hope that she does all that way the hell away from me. As for my wife, here things get a little tricky. See, my wife confessed that she and Dave were having an affair all this time, and so we're getting a divorce. I'm kidding about that last part, of course. God, could you imagine? No. My wife is awesome, and remained awesome. Since the situation seems to be mostly resolved, she is now allowed to tease me about it, which she has been. A lot. I might take a while to live this down, but otherwise we are doing well, and for the most part, things seem to have settled down with my friends, though I may want to reevaluate some of my relationships with some of the ones who are more inclined to believe some pretty bad shit about me. And yeah, that's about it. Sorry there wasn't really the crazy showdown that some of you may have expected. I do think this thing is behind us now, and thank you all for reading and for your advice. Marine Olive 76 says, wife is having a blast. Well, it's always good to have good humor and the ability to stay positive during the shitstorm. You have a smart one. Don't let her go. Bored Panda says, Opie's wife is awesome. He needs to buy her like a bouquet of chocolate-covered strawberries or something. She's been an anchor in this hurricane. Opie, I'm glad this is working out and hopefully settling down. Good luck. Captain Delicious Pants says, that's like going outside to shoo what you thought was a squirrel away from your bird feeder and finding an adult grizzly bear instead. It escalated so quickly, what the hell? Opie apologizing for there not being a big showdown, as if this isn't the most relieving thing that I've ever read in my life? Jesus Christ. I'm so glad he got out of that situation intact, and I wish the same for Dave. Yeah, I'm gonna need some justice for Dave after that. That was, a roller coaster and a half. I'm flabbergasted, I'm shocked, I need a couch to sit down on after all of this. I think Emma needs a long stay in a hospital for a bit to kind of sort out everything that's going on there. And I kind of agree with you, OP. I don't think you knew Emma. You knew her for 15 years, but you didn't know the real Emma that was trapped inside. The Emma that was crazy. So thank you for coming back with an extra update on top of it all, because that was brilliant, and I'm sure your wife loved it just as much. Jesus. I'd love to know what you guys think of that one. Let me know down below. My husband bought me a boudoir photo shoot. I don't want to do it. My husband just bought us an anniversary gift of a boudoir photo shoot to celebrate 20 years of being together. It's a sweet gesture, but not something I'm totally comfortable with, as I'm nervous that the photographer could get hacked and can't be trusted. I tried having this conversation with my husband, and he got really upset as it's non-refundable. I would do it if it was just the two of us, but I just don't feel comfortable at the moment with a photographer that I don't even know, even though he's talked to him a couple of times apparently. Are my fears of security over the top? If you've done this before, how did you feel? Probably long comment says, if your concern is the photographer getting hacked, this concern is probably a bit overblown. Even in the unlikely event that the photographer gets hacked, a hacker would be after financial information and personally identifiable information. Pictures of nude or scantily clad women aren't exactly hard to come by on the internet, and hacking someone to obtain these is unlikely, except in the case of celebrities. If you're simply uncomfortable posing for these photos, that is entirely valid. You are not obligated to allow anyone to photograph you in a situation in which you are not comfortable. No further justification is needed. I understand that your husband has already paid for part of, or all of, the shoot. That was a poor decision on his part, but you are certainly not to blame for it. I also question how a boudoir photo shoot is an appropriate anniversary celebration, but I don't want to start any new fires where this is concerned. As a useful compromise, you may suggest to the photographer that she or he take some portraits of you and your husband together to commemorate your anniversary. The photographer will almost certainly be willing to make this adjustment, and this seems a much more fitting celebration than racy photographs of just one of you. OP says, I really like that idea. If we just did some normal photos and maybe some in something a bit spicy but not revealing, I would actually be okay with that. I have a career where photos like that, even if nobody in the world cared, which I would hope they wouldn't given I'm not young anymore, could really impact me and my reputation. Femelin replies, photographers that do this type of work are generally really accommodating of different comfort levels. Also, just FYI. They can get you really good shots that are spicy, but not revealing if that would be more your speed. I helped out a friend who needed a model but just couldn't get one because it was shibari, bondage, and women he wasn't super close with were understandably not keen on that kind of vulnerability. I was clear that I was okay with suggestive, but didn't want to actually be naked under the ropes. The photographer that he worked with was really creative and comforting throughout the whole process, and constantly checked in on comfort levels. Would do it again. OP replies, yeah, this is when not talking with the photographer myself is a problem. I'm nervous about going to talk in person, because if I say I'm not comfortable, that might make things worse. This is really helpful advice. I think I'll insist on talking with the photographer over the phone tomorrow before I'm willing to even meet in person. Thanks for confirming how this should work. And they reply to OP, yeah, if it makes you feel any better, in addition to the shoot that I did, I also did makeup for another boudoir photographer, and I'm pretty confident that most of them are totally used to talking about comfort levels. Since these types of photos are predominantly women, I think any photographers that don't have good people skills in this vein probably don't last long. You have to be really good at putting people at ease to take these types of photos. And OP says, that's a really, really good point. If talking to him doesn't put me at ease, that's a super big red flag. Didn't think about that. Thanks for helping me not self-doubt myself. Waverly Drive says, this is something you should only do for yourself, on your terms, based on my experience. I was gifted a boudoir photo shoot for my birthday. My now ex drove me 2 hours for a surprise, and that was the surprise. At least you know ahead of the shoot. I looked like a deer in the headlights in the proofs, and I sobbed the entire way home. I'd always wanted to do one for me, but being blindsided with a shoot for him was one of the worst experiences, and now I don't ever want to take photos like that again. Strangeness and Charm replies, what the hell? I'm so sorry that happened to you, and I'm glad that he's an ex now. And Waverly Drive replies, thanks. He emailed me at 12:30 a.m., vomit, a few months ago to say the proof gallery from 10 years ago was still active if I wanted to fulfill the package that he bought and get edited prints. I ignored him. Yeah, I think all of this has been very good advice. I think if you don't want to do these things, you should communicate with your husband and come to a reasonable compromise that both of you can agree on. And if that compromise is not doing the photo shoot at all, that's completely acceptable. Or if instead it's you guys getting portraits together, that is even better. I would hope that after being married for so long, like 20 years together, half your lives, you'd be comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable bringing that up to him and talking about it, that's probably not a good sign for your relationship. And now, onto the update. So I talked with a photographer over the phone first. He was a professional and went over every single fear I had and had what I thought was a professional and authentic answer for all of them. He made sure I understood that I was in control and this was my time, not anyone else's. He was also frustrated that my husband had not told me ahead of time. Anyway, we went ahead with the shoot and I had a blast, honestly. The photographer was great, had great suggestions, and I actually think that it was worthwhile, and I'm glad that I did it. I'm still frustrated at my husband, but he just didn't really think it through. He wanted it to be a surprise, but didn't really put himself into my shoes. Should get the photos this week. I'm actually kind of excited. Thanks for all of the great advice and feedback. It really, really helped. Mama Can't Catch a Break says, a professional has you leaving the door feeling empowered and extremely confident with yourself and your body. Now it's your husband's turn. As a former boudoir photographer, let me just say that it pissed me off to no end when men didn't understand that women do not want to be surprised with this gift if they've ever expressed interest in it. I had a man pester me for weeks to buy a session for his wife. When I wouldn't sell him a session without talking to her, he literally dragged her to my studio to meet with me. When she walked in the door, the look of utter horror on her face was just awful. She probably thought that he was bringing her to a hooker for a threesome. I told her what it was, how it all works, and that it was up to her if she wanted to shoot. She thankfully got up and walked out. He was pissed. I'm Not Creepy 3 says, how is this supposed to be a gift for OP exactly? I'm glad the photographer eased OP's fears and she did what she was comfortable with, but personally, I would have said no out of principle because her husband was being inconsiderate. Ivy Cockroach 4515 says, I've heard of people doing it to regain their confidence, feel good about themselves, etc. It doesn't always have to be sexy for other people's purposes. Though it's definitely one of those things that you should talk about to the person before getting them anything. No, I agree with that, and I can completely see why people would feel as horrified about that as these stories have shown. Surprise gifts are all well and good if, they're socially acceptable ones, But trying to go out of the box and do a fun little surprise because you've mentioned this before and this isn't normally what people surprise you with. Look at me, I'm such a great partner, I'm going the extra mile for you. Yeah, that doesn't always work. These people lack critical thinking in these situations where they're like, if I was my wife and I was surprised with a boudoir photo shoot, how would I feel? I don't understand why more people don't do that. Much like those idiots that shove an estranged parent back into the lives of their partners, trying to fix things. It's just huge lack of critical thinking. Some people are such idiots. And it's truly amazing because it makes for such good stories, I won't lie. Thank you for sharing this one, OP. I am very much glad that it worked out amazingly for you and that you had such a good time. I hope you loved the photos. And I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Let me know. Our next post is by user OKFinish, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for not allowing my foster parents to put parental controls on the iPhone that my biological parents bought me? I, 15 male, have lived with my current foster parents since I was 9 years old, but I've been in foster care since I was 6. I will call my foster parents Henry and Erin. I got a new phone as an early Christmas present from my biological dad. It's an iPhone 16 Pro Max, which is the phone that I wanted, so I'm very happy about it. My previous phone was an iPhone 11 and was bought by Henry and Erin." Holy shit, bio dad just dropping a $2,500 Australian dollar phone. That's crazy. On my old phone, Henry and Erin had set up loads of parental controls on it, so I couldn't download any apps without them approving it. I couldn't turn off Share My Location, I couldn't change my passcode, it would lock everything except their contacts at 8 p.m. every night until after school, and they had a time limit on YouTube, so I could only watch it for 30 minutes within the time where my phone was unlocked anyway, and I could only go onto websites that they approved of. Like, there was a list that I could go on, and I couldn't go on anything that they didn't manually add to that list. These all really annoyed me. But whenever I asked for them to be turned off, they told me that they bought the phone and so these were the rules. I was given my new phone by my dad on Monday, and I haven't used it yet because they're telling me that I have to let them put the same restrictions on the new phone as they did my old phone. I said no because that isn't fair. I should be allowed to use my phone as my dad says because he paid for it. I said to them that my dad paid for the phone, so it was his choice, and that he doesn't want me to have those restrictions on. But now they've changed and said that it doesn't matter who bought the phone, even though that was their whole point before. Now they're saying that because I'm living with them, I have to follow their rules, and the rules for having a phone in this house is that they put restrictions on it. I don't think that's fair at all, considering they didn't buy the phone. I don't see how they can do this. Before I got home from school on Monday, they took the phone out of the box my dad sent it in and set up all the restrictions, and now I'm trying to figure out a way to take them off. I'm thinking about complaining to my social worker because it's not fair that they put these restrictions on my phone even though they didn't pay for it. 83 Pooley says, "OP, not going to say you're in the wrong because of your age. I'm also not going to say that your carers are in the wrong based on the information you've provided. I am coming from the position that I previously was a foster carer as well as a worker within the law enforcement system. Your biological father is making a power play here. You may not see it because, generally speaking, kids in care tend to see even the worst parents as being on a pedestal. For whatever reason, you've been in foster care for the majority of your life. A good portion of that time has been under the roof of your current carers. While I appreciate that at 15, you think you should be able to do what you want on your phone, you need to understand that your carers are most likely just looking out for your best interests. Your biological father, for a lack of a better term, is throwing in a grenade. In my opinion, he may be doing this for a few reasons. 1, to prove to himself or your caseworker that he is a good parent because deep down he knows he isn't. 2, to drive a wedge between you and your carers in exactly the way it appears to have. 3, because he cares about you genuinely and thinks that getting you an extravagant gift will somehow make up for you being in care since you were 6 years old. Honestly, it could be a mixture of all of the above. Regardless though, he should have discussed such a gift with your caseworker and carers. if there is contact between him and them, to make sure that it was okay, and so that he could discuss the rules surrounding usage of the phone with you. If you legitimately think that your carers are not doing what is in your best interests, then you should speak to your caseworker. Let them be the mediator, as they are basically in charge. There are possibly also things occurring in the background that you are unaware of. For example, the court or department in your jurisdiction that deals with children and care may want contact with your birth parents to only occur when they are aware of it. Your carers could simply be following rules that a court or your caseworker has outlined to them. If you think that they are on some level being reasonable because they care for you, then perhaps sit with them and discuss how at age 15 you should have more freedom. This could look like having the parental controls but with less restrictions, or it could be without the parental controls but with your carers able to look at your phone messages and photos when they feel there is a need and without notice, i.e., they know the unlock code to the phone. At the end of the day, it's about trust. Show them that you can be trusted with more freedom, and then they will likely be more willing to become more lenient as you get older. Try to make sure that regardless of how the conversation goes with your carers, that you keep your cool. Good luck. Brian Undies says, I feel so bad for OP because they can't see this for the plain manipulation by their biological parent that it is. OP says, you think he's trying to manipulate me? A Lost Amphibian replies, yes. At the very least, most people here think giving you a phone and without consulting your caseworker or foster parents was irresponsible because he doesn't raise you and now it is causing issues. But to the adults here, it feels manipulative. You aren't here to be told that you're right. OP says, firstly, my days, I didn't come here to be told I'm right. All I've been doing is correcting some people's wrong assumptions about things, so everything is clear, and then people are attacking me, acting like I don't want to hear opinions. When I correct something that isn't me saying your whole point is irrelevant, that is me correcting something so everyone else doesn't read it and think it's right. A Lost Amphibian replies, your father doesn't have to live with the consequences of you having a phone. I agree with the person that said prove you can be trusted so some of these restrictions can be lifted. And OP replies, how would you recommend doing that? A Lost Amphibian replies, that's a conversation to have with your foster parents. We don't know if you're a very good kid who's home by curfew and keeps good company. Maybe they're being overly protective. Maybe you don't follow their house rules and have sketchy friends, and their protectiveness is warranted. That's a conversation to have with them. And if you feel like that's the kind of conversation that gets heated or is unproductive, then could your caseworker or a therapist or a counselor or another trusted adult help you communicate what it is that you want so you can reach a compromise with them? Before long, you're going to be an adult who will have all the self-governed freedom you can stand. This is a normal situation to be in with the addition of them being foster parents. They're trying to get you to adulthood, man. It isn't easy. No one is an expert. No one is always right. Give them the same grace that you give your parents. I really like all of these comments here. They really dive deep into the fact that this isn't so black and white as OP, the 15-year-old, kind of sees it as. And I think at this age, it's about time to start slowly educating OP about, the subtle manipulation that they are under from their parents. That $2,500 phone is an insane purchase to just bring up out of nowhere. It's so obvious to so many people that this is a grenade, and yet it's not obvious to OP that this is manipulation. So I do hope that OP takes the advice that they were given here. I don't think that they're an asshole for not allowing the foster parents to put parental controls on the phone. It didn't play out that way. They happened anyway. I don't blame OP for being upset at that. They are ignorant of these things. They are ignorant to a lot of things going on around them. The onus is now on OP to educate themselves, gather different perspectives, and communicate with everyone they have been suggested to talk to find a middle ground in all of this. And now, onto the update. So Henry and Erin actually took me to McDonald's after school today, the day that I am writing this, and they said to me that they could tell that I was upset with them and asked me to explain my feelings to them. I explained how I felt really frustrated that they told me the parental controls were because they bought the phone, and then when my dad bought me a phone, they still put the same restrictions on. They said they were sorry they gave that impression and that they could have explained it better. They asked which were the restrictions that I had the biggest issue with. I said how I can't call and text anyone unless they approve of it, how the phone locks at 8 p.m., I can't use it, and that I only have 30 minutes on YouTube or TikTok, and that I can't have apps like Snapchat, Discord, Instagram, etc. They said okay, they understood why I was upset and frustrated, and said they'll discuss with my social worker how they can lighten up the rules while still ensuring that I am safe. They said they don't want me having a long time on the phone because they don't think that it's good for me. But they said that in the meantime, they'll increase the limit to 1 hour for YouTube and TikTok, and that they'll increase the bedtime until 9:30 p.m. I think this is a fair compromise. I said that they seemed upset that I got a new phone in general, and they said they weren't upset at me, but were upset at the situation. I asked what they meant, and they said that it was something between them and my dad, and that I didn't need to worry about it. But I asked them to carry on, and I kind of had to persuade them to tell me. They had actually bought me an iPhone 16 Pro Max for Christmas and told my parents and my social worker that they had bought it and were going to give it to me for Christmas. But my dad bought one before they could give me theirs, and they felt upset that their big present had been ruined. But they said that it wasn't my fault, and they didn't mean to make me feel like they didn't care about what my dad got me. Honestly, that made me feel upset. I asked my dad why he bought me the phone if he knew that Henry and Erin already did. He said he didn't want Henry and Erin to have to give me something so expensive, but I said they'd already bought it for me and he knew that. I said that was unfair and that he shouldn't have done that. He called me ungrateful. I asked him how he would feel if it was the other way around, and he left me on red. Starting to get an understanding of why this guy's not raising the child. I actually feel really upset for Henry and Erin that my dad did that to them, and I actually feel guilty even though I didn't know that they had already bought me one. I'm not sure what to do now. I could give my phone back to my dad and have Henry and Erin's, but I don't know if that's the right thing to do. Henry and Erin said that it wasn't my fault, and that it doesn't mean my dad is a bad person, which I know. But I do feel really angry at him. Chaos2TW says, I'm glad you came to a compromise and understand better now what they were doing and why. I'm sorry that you're in the middle of the drama between your dad and your fosters. I'm proud of you for being responsible and talking about it with them. 15-year-old with better emotional regulation and rational thinking than most adults. It's impressive. I'd put that down to having parents that actually care about them. Crazy how low the bar is these days, huh? It sounds like his foster parents are doing an excellent job, as is OP, of helping him grow up with these skills. Giving him a bit of time to cool off, and then talking about it in a neutral environment is so sensible. And on to the latest updates. I'm writing this from the school IT suite. I just wanted to share something. Firstly, it makes me really uncomfortable that people were sending me hate messages and sending death wishes to my dad. People were messaging me saying they wish he'd unalive himself, or that Henry and Erin should throw me out for being ungrateful to them. Sorry, but you people need help. It's not normal to treat people like that, and it's not normal to say things like that to people. People were accusing me of being blindly loyal to my dad, which simply isn't true. I've said so many times that my dad isn't a great person, but that doesn't mean that he's a sociopath or that he deserves to die. It's so crazy that I get downvoted for saying, bruh, calm down a bit, please, when I respond to people like that. Anyways, my dad is still ignoring me, which is making me really upset. I've sent in some messages basically just saying, how's you, how was work, and stuff like that, and he's left me on red every day since last Thursday. So I've decided that I'm just going to leave it, and if he wants to talk with me again, he can come to me. Henry and Erin said they feel really bad because they said they shouldn't have told me about what my dad did, but I said that I'm glad they did tell me. I decided that I would keep the phone my dad gave me, and we'd return the phone that Henry and Erin bought me. and we're going to use that money for a trip to Drayton Manor, where we have the fast passes, so we don't need to wait in any lines, and we're going to take my little brother also. He doesn't live with me and Henry and Erin, which is going to be so much fun. I'm really excited for that. I just want to clarify some things. I am long-term matched with Henry and Erin, which means I am never going to be reunified with my biological parents, even if they became super parents with no flaws. I'm matched with Henry and Erin, so I'm staying with them until I'm 18. This has been the case since I was 11-ish. There have never been plans for me to move back in with my parents, because to be honest, neither of them want me to. Sounds harsh, but it's true, and I like living with Henry and Erin. Also, both my mum and dad have children with other people now. We are still a family though. I just have a very big, very weird family. Fem0879 says, "This poor sweet boy, who is so matter-of-fact about his father and mother not wanting or caring about him, still defends them to whoever goes too far in his eyes. I'm glad he is on this earth. I just hate that he had to be born to those assholes." Corfiz says, "I'm so glad that he has his foster parents. They sound like the real deal." Ali Marie 93 says, "I feel for this poor kid. His dad doesn't want him and is clearly a shitty person, but OP still feels the need to defend him and act like everything is fine." Lollipop Guildmaster says, "It's not that OP is acting like everything's fine. You want to love your parents and be loved by them. It doesn't matter how shitty they are and how shitty you know they are. The desire never goes away. My mother cheated on my father, ending their marriage when I was 13 to 14. I knew what was going on, including specifics. I still cut myself off from my paternal grandmother when she wouldn't shut up about what a horrible person my mum was. Hell, I agreed with her on most of the things she was saying, but that didn't make those things welcome, and it made me feel like I needed to defend her, which pissed me off even more. My relationship with my grandmother never recovered. We were basically friendly strangers by the time she passed. OP knows exactly how bad his father is, I promise you. He doesn't need anyone telling him." Yeah, OP has it rough, and I very much feel for them throughout this whole situation, but I don't think that the foster parents should feel bad about having him know the specifics of the situation with his father, because really, they were doing that to protect him, and OP's growing up now. OP deserves to know, more intimate details about these things. And yeah, OP knows exactly how bad his father is. That should be a given from the fact that his father ghosted him when confronted. That is not an action of a emotionally mature person. The father should have owned up to what he did wrong, but no. He ghosts his son because he doesn't have a good explanation for his shitty behavior. That's not good parenting. That's not setting a good example. I'd be upset if I was OP and had to have parents, biological parents like that. I'm glad that things are going well for OP in this situation, that Henry and Erin continue to be such amazing, thoughtful people, and that they will take OP and OP's brother, who they don't have any, connection to like that. They're still friendly with him by the sounds of it, to Drayton Manor. Don't know where that is, but that sounds fun. Especially getting fast passes. I've looked those up. Those are expensive. My God. Thank you so much for the story, OP. I'm glad things are going well, and I hope they continue to go even better into the future. Fiancé wants to end our relationship because I didn't choose him first. I'm sorry if this whole thing sounds a little rushed, but my fiancé Ryan, who I've been with for 7 years, told me today that he's not sure whether he wants to be with me anymore, and I realize it may sound stupid, but I love him so much. It feels like my world is falling apart around me, and I don't know what I can do. This all started a couple of days ago when we were celebrating our anniversary. We invited a bunch of people, including one of my closest friends, Ellie. She noticed my fiancé being affectionate towards me and made some stupid comment about how she told me so, that Ryan would be better for me than my ex, Andy. My fiancé was a little confused and asked Ellie what she meant. Back when I was in college, Andy and Ryan both asked me out to the same event. I'd known Ryan since high school, and we'd always had a thing, but we weren't a couple. On top of that, he went to another college that was an hour-and-a-half drive away from me. Andy went to my college. His dorm was a 5-minute walk away, and he was someone completely new. I began to feel like my relationship with Ryan wouldn't be exciting enough because we already knew almost everything about each other, with the added headache of being half an hour away from each other. Despite Ellie's protests, I decided to go with Andy. I know my reasoning is beyond stupid, but I never thought that this decision had the potential to blow up my future. Ryan was already hurt that I declined his request to go on a date. I didn't want to make him feel worse by telling him that I was going with someone else. Not that it mattered because he stopped talking to me for about 6 months. During this time, it became obvious that me and Andy weren't right for each other, so we ended it. When me and Ryan began talking again, I realized how much I missed him and that he was so perfect for me, so I asked him out. He was overjoyed, and that's how we got to this point. For the rest of the party, I could tell that his mood was off. He kept pulling away from my kisses and touches and responded to me with short one-sentence answers. After the party, when I asked him what was wrong, he just said that he felt sick. For the next 2 days, he continued to be cold and distant. I had no idea what was happening, so I waited patiently for him to become comfortable enough to tell me. Today, he told me the reason he had been acting off. From the story, it sounded like I had kept him as my backup or plan B in case my relationship with Andy failed, and that it was especially messed up since we'd obviously had feelings for each other long before then. He also said that he deserved to be someone's first choice. I thought that this was just an insecurity that we could get through, but then he went on to say that he's not sure whether he can see our relationship in the same light anymore, so it might be best if we split up. I pleaded with him that we don't need to take it that far, and that we should go to counseling or even just live separately for a few days while he thinks about whether this is what he actually wants. So far, he hasn't said anything except that he absolutely refuses to go to therapy. I can tell that this is weighing on him heavily because he's been drinking more than usual, but I don't know what to say to make him feel better. We have had a beautiful relationship. He's never been overly jealous or possessive, and although neither of us are perfect, I couldn't ask for a more loving, respectful, intelligent, and charming soon-to-be husband. I don't understand how all of that could come to an end for a foolish mistake that I made 7 years ago. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for by posting on here, but if anyone has any advice, please let me know. Edit, I think I may have messed up on my wording. He doesn't care that I dated someone else before him, it bothers him that I made the choice between him or Andy, and I chose Andy. Rumble73 says, you have to remember, most men have been coming in second to last place all their lives. Being picked for sports teams, losing schoolyard scraps, never been asked out by a woman, getting turned down at the school dance, being turned down by dozens of women that they've liked over the years, and most men have grown up to want to be competitive. So the one time he felt he came in first turns out to be a lie. It hurts. It happens so infrequently that the one time he felt special in his life, he has romanticized it, and now it's been taken away. Whatever you do, I think you need to ensure that he feels loved and special. Quiche Lapoodle says, seriously? You have to remember that coming in second to last place all their lives is called being human. Men don't have a monopoly on feeling rejected or unappreciated. If OP's fiancé doesn't feel loved and special, despite OP ultimately and intentionally choosing him and intentionally choosing to stay with him for 7 years and counting, then perhaps fiancé's self-esteem is so fragile that OP would end up spending her whole life propping him up. That fiancé won't consider therapy, and working this out in a constructive way is also concerning. OP, I hope you're both able to get some distance, calm down, and talk this through. If not, then be glad that this is happening now. Rumble73 replies, yes, I am serious. In matters of dating, I wouldn't say that men have a monopoly of feeling rejected, but the average man certainly is outperforming the average woman tenfold when it comes to being rejected by the opposite sex. Just look at the annual surveys that online dating companies use to show the male and female perspectives. The dating experience for the average guy is simply so different to what the average girl has experienced, and it starts in the teens. It just gets worse as you go into the online world. While no one is entitled to a dating partner, the experience that most men have to go through in securing a partner is to go through dozens to hundreds of rejected ask you out on a date type of experiences in real life, and thousands of swipes that go unanswered online. And maybe her fiancé's ego is that fragile. So what? Shouldn't a caring and loving partner adjust to that for the moment someone is hurt? And the situation is not asking her to prop him up for the rest of his life. The situation is calling for a temporary assuaging of the hurt and rejection that he is feeling. A little empathy, a little attention, a little reassurance would go a long way here. That's what partners do for each other. Prop each other up when they are down so you can face all of life's misery together. Sandy Bottoms Up says, quotes, "My relationship with Ryan wouldn't be exciting enough. You didn't choose him first. And you picked right back up with him the minute that it didn't work out with the other guy. 7 years, and he never knew that you let another guy take you on the same date that he asked you on. Can you blame him? Nope. I don't blame him. That's a very real point. You rejected him. You went on the same date with him that he wanted to do with you, instead with someone that you thought was more interesting. I mean, if you didn't want your friend to ever mention that, you should have told your friend not to mention that. If you didn't want this blowing up in your face, because yeah, that is actually a pretty big thing, I won't lie, then you should have broached this topic with him sometime in these last 7 years. Like Rumble said, a little empathy, a little attention, a little reassurance would go a long way. And it doesn't seem as though you've been doing your part as a partner here. I think you need to sit down with him, apologize for everything that's happened, and reconnect as best you can. I know it seems childish and it seems stupid from your perspective, but can you try and see it from his perspective for at least like a minute? And now on to the update. So a few people have asked for an update. It's been a little over 2 weeks now, so I'm not sure if anyone is even interested anymore. Believe me, we are. I think for now I'm just confused about what's happening. If anyone has any advice or has some idea of what he's thinking, please tell me. After what happened in the last post, he said that we should put off the wedding while we decide how to proceed. That means something, right? He used the exact words put off instead of cancel, and while we decide how to proceed. I think that means he hasn't decided that we should break up yet. Maybe he'll just decide not to be married, but to continue our relationship. I don't think he's ready to give up our relationship yet, but he's moved into a hotel. I know some people have told me to give him space, but I've decided that even if a part of him is willing to stay with me, I'm going to do everything I can to give me another chance. I've been dropping off food, leaving notes under his door, and we've been calling every day, sometimes twice a day. Right now, we're both stuck in limbo. Most of the time we talk about how much we miss each other, the plans we had, and me convincing him that he's my soulmate, and that regardless of what happened with Andy, I know we would have ended up together. Then there are other moments where he calls me in the middle of the night, having obviously been crying and asking questions like, "What did he have that I didn't? Did you love him? Was he better in bed? Was he better looking than me? Do you still think he's better looking than me? What does more exciting mean? Do you wish he gave you another chance?" Oh, my brother's going through it. He says that he wants to be with me desperately, but when he thinks about me, it is seared into his mind that I was always his first choice, but he will always have been my second. It hurts him that we had feelings for each other all the way through high school, but the moment that I met Andy, none of that meant anything anymore, which must have meant that I thought Andy was worth my time and that he wasn't. It breaks my heart to hear him holding back tears and trying to cry silently, but I swear I'll do anything to save our relationship, and part of that means not hiding anything from him. I've begged him to reconsider going to therapy, but he absolutely will not budge. Some of our mutual friends are saying that they're not sure if he'll recover from this, but I don't care. He hasn't told me to stop trying, so I'm not going to. I wish to God that I could go back and change the past, because I love him more than anything, including myself. It feels like I'm in some sort of surreal nightmare. Less than a month ago, we were laying in bed fighting over which one of us got to name our kids, and now a seemingly insignificant mistake that I made 7 years ago just might wipe away the beautiful future that I want with Ryan. All I can do right now is be there and hope that he can give me another chance, but I don't know what he's thinking. I know this isn't a common relationship problem, but if anyone has anything they can give me, whether it's advice or even reassurance that things are going to work out, please tell me. Edit. He called an hour ago. Some of his friends found this Reddit post and showed it to him, so he called angry, asking why I would tell strangers about our personal problems, and how is he supposed to face his family and friends now after they all know the only reason that I'm with him is because Andy broke up with me? Oh no. Oh man. After reading the comments, he realized that it wasn't right for him to keep me in the dark for so long without making a decision. He decided that we should go our separate ways so that I can decide whether it really is him that I want to be with and that he wasn't just the convenient choice. For now, I can't describe how I'm feeling. It's like I'm so tired I just want to sleep forever. I know some of you have the impression that he's a horrible man, but this was just a small fragment of our relationship and doesn't reflect who he is as an individual in the slightest. He's the guy who spent days learning about my major on top of his own studies so that he could help me study for exams and proofread my coursework. He spent thousands of his own hard-earned money to give my parents their dream vacation to Australia and insisted that I said I paid for it because they'd feel bad taking money from him. When my ex threatened to leak nudes that I'd sent him when we were together, I was terrified that he would leave. He took me out to my favorite restaurant and said there was nothing anyone else could do or say that would ever affect how much he loves me, and then he asked me to marry him so that I'd never have to worry about him leaving ever again. My fiancé is the best man that I've ever known, and the assumptions that everyone here has made from hearing about such a small part of our lives is disgusting, and I didn't come here for people to convince me that he's immature, insecure, or any of that. I should have known better than to post here, but all I can hope for now is that he sees this. To my fiancé, I don't know what I can say to make this better, and I don't know if you'll be able to heal from this. What I can say is that you are wrong in thinking that I chose you out of convenience. I chose you because you are the most thoughtful, handsome, intelligent, and charming man that I have ever known. Every single moment we've had together for the last 7 years, every kiss that we've shared, every bagel that we've split, and every I love you that I've said was meant for you, and was an affirmation that you are and always will be my first choice. I don't believe that you want to cut our lives together short. I think that you were trying to heal from the consequences of a mistake that I made, and then I inadvertently set a fire underneath you by forcing you to come to a decision by making this post. Take as long as you need to do whatever it is that you need to do to heal from this, and I'll be here waiting for when you're ready to talk. If you decide that this is something that we cannot overcome, I would accept your decision, but I know that we are stronger than this. I love you so much. Edit 2. I know this is starting to get really long, but he read my open letter and got in contact with me to say that he's not promising anything except that he will listen. He still refuses to see a therapist because he doesn't view our relationship as strong enough that there is anything to salvage right now. However, some people here have expressed that they wish they could give him advice directly, and I've convinced him to talk to others who have experienced this and heal from it. Update 2. Before I get into the update, I want to say that I asked my ex-fiancé before posting this, and he said that it's fine as long as I don't give away any details that could reveal us to more of our friends and family. I've always been the type of person who values other people's input when it comes to making big decisions, and he knows that. A lot has happened since the last update. After we spoke, he went completely quiet for around 2 weeks for time to think. The waiting was almost unbearable, but he promised that as soon as he had an answer for me, he would contact me. I wasn't allowed to come to his hotel to drop off food, try to see him, or any sort of contact. When he finally called, the first thing that he established was that our relationship was over. However, despite our relationship ending, he still wants to be with me. If I still want to be with him, we can restart our relationship completely from the beginning with the board wiped clean. In his own words, while you look back at our relationship and see something wonderful, I look back at it in disgust because you lied by omission every single day. Initially, I was ready to agree on the spot, but he insisted that I take the week to decide whether I really want this. His logic is that if I choose to restart our relationship from the beginning now, he will be my first choice. Later on in the week, it began to settle what this would mean. I would go from fiancé back to girlfriend. I don't know when he is going to propose again, I don't want children until we're married, so I don't know how long that's going to be. In short, it would completely throw off the life plans that we had. I asked for a little more time, and he doesn't want me to resent him in the future, so agreed to give me as much time as I needed to come to a decision. This is a better outcome than I expected, and maybe better than I deserve. But I would be lying if I said I don't wish things could go back to normal. I've decided that I'm going to agree to starting over. It just really hurts that the past 7 years don't mean anything anymore. Not long ago, we celebrated our 7th anniversary, but this time next year, we'll be celebrating our 1st anniversary again. Edit. He read the post and wanted to address some of the comments. 1. If we do restart our relationship, he won't hold anything over my head. It'll be exactly as he said, and our relationship would start completely over. He is so confident of this that he insists I leave him if he ever slips up and brings it up when we argue. 2. Some people have said that being first is just an arbitrary construct, but that doesn't mean anything. Marriage is a construct, monogamy is a construct, etc. Something being a construct doesn't make it any less real or capable of inflicting pain. 3. A reminder that this isn't about me dating people before him. He doesn't care about that. He cares that I knew him for years, that we had a bond in high school, and that he waited until we were in college so that we could officially become a couple, but I picked someone else that I barely knew. And 4. It's come up very often that the length of our relationship should have some influence over his decisions. He says it does because it makes it even worse. I never told him about what happened during those 6 months while we were together. On top of that, I wasn't the one to tell him in the end. We know everything about each other, so he can only assume that I consciously hid it from him. He said, I'm not insecure, fragile, or irrational. The fact is that our old relationship is now ruined in my eyes. It's ruined because she took away my ability to make an informed decision 7 years ago. If I had known the circumstances of her return, I'm not afraid to say that I would have told her to go screw herself. Now I'm giving her the option to restart our relationship with me knowing all the facts. This time, we will be equals. In the comments, Agreeable Singer says, "Oh, there is so much missing from this." There was a post from the guy that he took down where he said, and she admitted in the comments, that they were a couple in high school and just couldn't date openly because of their parents. When she didn't go on the date with him, she was basically breaking up with him. She also admitted that Andy dumped her because she wanted a relationship and he was just looking for hookups. She basically admitted that Ryan was right and he was her backup plan, because even when she started dating Ryan officially, she was still trying to get Andy to take her back. And they did break up, because she couldn't handle starting their relationship over and wanted to just pretend the whole thing never happened. Alive Palpitation says, quote, "He won't hold anything over my head." The entire post and updates is him holding stuff over her head. I hope OP wised up, because that relationship is a train wreck. Neon Cactus Fields replies, "Also the fact that he refuses to go to therapy is a massive red flag in my opinion. He sounds incredibly rigid and unwilling to explore any other way of thinking. He also sounds incredibly controlling and manipulative to me. He's probably been this way this whole relationship, and it's unfortunate that his massive overreaction wasn't enough for OP to wake up and see him for who he really is. But he's not the only man she's ever found attractive. Don't you understand how impossible that must be? Seriously, this guy should be her last choice." I'm seriously like, what the hell did I just read? So she went to some other event with a different guy instead of him. They had a very short relationship. He sucked. She hit him back up, and now it's been 7 years of bliss. But I wasn't your first choice, bro. Get a life. Look, I can empathize with both trains of thought in this instance because, for me personally, I think it is a bit of an overreaction on his part. But at the same time, he's valid to having any reaction he wants to, especially since he was lied to by omission. A lot of people will downplay his feelings. A lot of people will say it's not that deep. It was literally meaningless, but OP's partner is allowed to feel the way they feel, and I think it is also irrational that he doesn't want to go to therapy. Couples counseling would absolutely do a world of good for these two, and to just say absolutely not to that, that's quite irresponsible if you want to keep your relationship going. At the end of the day, not my circus, not my monkeys. Thank God I am not involved in a train wreck relationship like that because, I don't know, after hearing this, do you really think that it's going to work out well? The energy I'm getting from this is that it's going to crash and burn eventually. Thank you for the story, OP. I hope everything goes well. And I'd love to know what you guys think of this one down in the comments below. Our next post is by a throwaway account titled, "I'm in love with my baby's mum, but she wants to leave." So I, 27 male, met Myla, 25 female, like 4 years ago at a bar. Long story short, it was a mutual friend's birthday. We were at this bar, and we had both just gotten out of long-term relationships. Hers was 5 years, mine was 4. A lot of drinking later, it was hella awkward waking up naked on the birthday dude's couch with Myla. But honestly, that wasn't even the wildest thing that happened that night. The birthday guy? He did something way worse. Anyway, after all that, me and Myla were both super awkward about it. She legit looked like she wanted to crawl under a rock. Neither of us wanted anything serious since we had just broken up with our exes, but we still swapped numbers and went our separate ways. Fast forward like 3 months, Myla texted me asking to grab a coffee. I thought that it was kinda weird, but I figured she might want to go on a date or something. When I got there, she looked like she'd been crying. As soon as I sat down, she just started bawling. Turns out she was pregnant. She hadn't realized because she was super stressed and tired, but I was the only person that she had slept with. My whole life flipped upside down. We did a DNA test, and it was mine. Then she moved in with me because she was sharing a room with a roommate. The guest room became hers, and my office is now Andrea's room. But we call him Andy. Having a kid wasn't exactly in my plans, but since Andy came along, my life's been better, honestly. Over the years, me and Myla never really had a romantic relationship, except for the one time she kissed me after Andy was born. We get along, I support them, I'm paying for Myla's grad school, she finishes next year, we split the chores, and I'm always there for whatever she needs. So, in November, Andy's gonna turn 3. We've been planning his birthday, it's around Halloween, so he and his friends are all gonna dress up. He wants to go as Bingo from Bluey. During one of our talks, Myla asked if I wanted her to move out. She said now that Andy's 3, we could co-parent separately, and I could even, get a girlfriend if I wanted to. I just went blank and said no, and dipped to my room. Here's the thing. I love her. Having Andy is everything to me, but I'm also legit in love with her. She's smart, beautiful, caring, thoughtful, kind, dedicated. She's literally the most perfect person ever, but I'm way too scared to tell her. We have a kid together, and I'm terrified of ruining everything between us as parents and friends. I don't know if I should tell her how I feel, or just keep pretending that everything's fine so that I don't mess up what we have. In the comments, I know some things too says, "You'll regret it if you don't tell her. Tell her, and whatever happens, at least you'll know." Ex-King Dweeb says, "Brother, you gotta tell her, because if you don't, someone else is gonna see what you see in her, and at that point it'll be too late. You already have a starting point. Just use what you wrote in the beginning of the last paragraph, and go from there. Don't let fear block your happiness." OK Bath says, "Ask her out on a date." And OP says, "I will." What they all said, OP. You've already been living together for 3 years. I'm actually surprised it hasn't happened up until this point. Take the advice in the comments, ask her out, tell her how you feel, and try and start something. I really don't see it not happening. And now, onto the update. I finally talked to her about my feelings. Quick recap, me and Mila had a baby together after a one-night thing. Ever since, we've been living together, and I'm in love with her. She's absolutely stunning, breathtaking even, but I've been too scared to tell her how I feel because I didn't want to mess up our co-parenting situation. So I left work early, picked up Andy from nursery, and dropped him off at my mum's. I bought some flowers, cleaned up the house while she was in class, and texted her saying she didn't need to pick up Andy and to just come home because we needed to talk. When she got home, she looked at me with her big eyes wide open, and the first thing she asked about was our kid. I hugged her for a while, but she went full mummy bear mode and kept asking about our baby boy. After I reassured her that he was with my mum and was totally fine, she finally calmed down. I brought her to the living room, gave her the bouquet, and started talking. It was a long conversation. I told her how I've been scared of ruining things and how it hurt when she asked if I wanted her to leave. She admitted that she was afraid she was messing up my life, that she feels like a burden sometimes, and even blames herself for ruining my life with the pregnancy. I shut that down real quick. I never wanted kids, but honestly, since Andy and Mila came into my life, everything's been way better. It's been the best, most challenging mistake I've ever made. She also said she likes me too, and she's felt that way since she was pregnant, but wasn't sure if it was just the hormones. After the baby, she felt embarrassed to say anything because she didn't feel comfortable in her body anymore. She never got back to her pre-pregnancy body and thought I wouldn't find her attractive. But to me, she's the most beautiful and hot woman on the planet. She also admitted that she would get jealous when I went on dates, even though she knew it didn't make sense because we weren't a thing. Honestly, if she went on dates, I'd be dying of jealousy too. We talked for a long time, even got into some deeper, more personal stuff. By the time we were done, it was late. We went to this small restaurant near our place for dinner. No wine because I was driving, but it was amazing. We chatted about music, movies, and she went off about ASOIAF for ages while I ranted about Lord of the Rings. Oh, it's a Song of Ice and Fire, that's what that is. We talked about life and just random stuff. At the end of the night, I got a few kisses in the car, like we didn't even live together, which was kinda cute. Then we watched a horror movie. Awful movie, by the way, but she fell asleep cuddling me. It was a day full of wins. In the comments, Mrs. Foxfur says, cute story, but now I'm really curious about the birthday guy and the way worse thing that he did. Right? He answered it in the first post. Man, the real question should be, what didn't he do on his birthday? We hit up this bar and everyone got totally wasted. Then there was an after party at his place. We walked there, and I was up front with Mila and some other friends. After that, all I know is from the stories, 'cause I spent the night with Mila. But apparently, he got home barefoot with some random dog that he stole from someone's house. He decided to get back at his girlfriend for cheating on him, told everyone about it, and then hooked up with her sister while his girlfriend cried outside the room. He ran around the neighborhood in his boxes and ended up passing out on the lawn hugging the stolen dog. He still has the dog to this day. We never found the owners. I think the dog didn't have any owners. Okay. That's not how I imagined the story to go, but sure. Glad that we have a lot of, endings and a lot of beginnings. I'm beginning to question my sanity after the dog story. Thank you for that, OP. I very much appreciate it. That's where I'm going to end the comments for this one, and I think that's where I'm going to end the episode. I'm 26. I've been with my fiancé for 3 years. She's 24. She's got me paying for her entire family. Is this getting out of hand? I'm 26, earning a high salary that puts me in a completely different financial bracket than my fiancée, who is 24. We've been together for 3 years and engaged for a few months, but her constant financial demands are really testing my limits. A few days ago, her cousin had a medical emergency and needed a large sum for hospital bills. It was a significant amount, one I couldn't ignore. I told my fiancée that I simply couldn't pay it, and she went off on me, calling me selfish and saying if I truly loved her, I would help her family. Her mom even sent me a text saying that I was wrong for not stepping up. And it didn't end there. Just a few days later, her uncle, who I've never met, reached out and asked me for a loan to fund a business idea. He made it sound urgent, and of course, my fiancée was right there, nodding like it was no big deal. I said no, and once again my fiancé guilt-tripped me, saying, "This is how my family survives. Why can't you just help?" It's a pattern now. Whether it's paying for vacations, covering hospital bills, or funding business ventures, I'm always expected to foot the bill. I'm starting to feel like I'm just a walking ATM, not a partner. In the comments, Loadbolt says, "You need to stand your ground and stop being the ATM for her family. If her family's bills are that big of a concern for her, she can start giving her own money." New Eleni says, "This girl is going to end up killing her goose that lays the golden eggs." I remember another story where this guy's stay-at-home girlfriend basically embezzled like $50K from him to help her sister, basically completely subsidizing her life. When he was like, "This is getting out of hand," she had the nerve to get mad at him and then stress the importance of family to her. When he finally broke up with her, she was all shocked and tried to backtrack everything. Too late. She had a charmed life where he paid for everything, and she lost it all by greedily insisting he support her family. Dude, 4 things ruin marriages: infidelity, abuse, in-laws, and finances. This isn't going to change soon. She's been raised with this mindset about money, and it's going to stick. Her family sounds problematic as well, and it seems as though she chooses them over you. You need to decide whether you are prepared to deal with this in the long term. If not, call it off now before you get married or have kids. Nobody will judge you for it. Love trumps all is bullshit. Finances is a major element in marriages, and if you and her aren't aligned, it's only going to end up in a disaster. Financial compatibility is right up there with sexual compatibility. If it was me, knowing what I know now, I wouldn't stick around. Not when there are lots of fish in the sea who could fit better, or just to avoid all that strain and headache at least. Just saying. Yeah, I mean, don't be a mark, OP. You can be 3 years with your fiancé, and when you tie the knot, you just know she's going to use that to press the advantage further to get as much money out of you as she can. It's obvious that she doesn't care about you. She just cares about you funding her family. Please, the mask is slipped. Take her at face value. She's financially abusing you. She's allowing her in-laws to say and do whatever they want to you to get money out of you. This is not a partner. This is a sugar baby at best. It is getting out of hand. Get out of there. And now, onto the update. Sorry it took time to update. It's been a hectic few days. I didn't expect this whole situation to blow up like it has. I thought that I was just making a decision for my own well-being, but the amount of support and advice I've received has been overwhelming. Thank you to everyone who offered their thoughts. Seriously, it's been helpful in ways I didn't anticipate. I told her that I can't go through with the wedding. I explained that the constant financial stress, the guilt-tripping, and the complete lack of boundaries from her family have made it not possible for me to see a healthy future with her. Her initial reaction was a mix of anger and tears, but when her family found out, they started harassing me with messages, accusing me of abandoning her and claiming that I need to panagutan, or be accountable for her, because she was a virgin before we met and she helped me a lot. Most sane Filipino family, least guilt-tripping Filipino in-laws. Their messages quickly escalated into threats, making it clear that they were trying to pressure me into staying in the relationship and continuing to support them financially. On top of that, when I mentioned that I'd been so stressed I was considering getting a vasectomy because I can't imagine raising children in such a toxic environment, her family's harassment only intensified. They're now demanding that I go through with the wedding or pay up. Thankfully, my parents have been an incredible source of support throughout all this. They are fully behind my decision to call off the wedding and have even offered to help me handle the harassment legally if needed. I've saved all the messages and threats to protect myself in case this goes further. I also told my fiancée that she needs to move out of my place. Now she's refusing to leave unless I give her 6 months or a year of living costs and rent up front. I feel like she's just trying to take advantage of me one last time before the relationship is officially over. Yes, this has been one of the most draining experiences of my life, but I'm determined to move forward and protect myself. In the comments, Prize Bumblebee says, "Oh, she's definitely trying to squeeze you one last time. Mortifying. You made the right decision. There is light at the end of this tunnel. You will feel so much better and free once this runs its course. Horrible people." Need to panagutan. For anyone wondering, this is a Tagalog word, meaning the fiancé and family are from the Philippines. This story not only makes sense, this is basically the default in the Philippines. Send young beautiful girl out to nab rich guy, use rich guy to support entire family. The fact that OP didn't know what was going on shows a complete lack of awareness of what he was getting into. OP is Filipino if you check his comments. It seems like he was ready to help her out with some financial obligations because her family is from a lower income background, but he didn't expect just how much she would milk it. Amen, the juice is not worth the squeeze, that's all I'm saying. Learn from this one, you got a few good years out of it, but don't let yourself get into situations like this. It seems like it was a bit of a crab in a slowly boiling pot situation. He's just realized, oh shit, I'm cooking from the inside, I'm dying right now. The entire family is squeezing me for cash. I don't know, he's from the culture, he knows what it's like. Surely people talked about it and gave him examples of how this occurs in Filipino culture. How was he so surprised and so taken aback by all of this? Some things just boggle the mind. I'm glad he got out of there, and I'm glad he didn't allow them to take any more money off of him. Thank you for the story, OP. What do you guys think of this one down below? Let me know. Our next post is by user saltfall5312, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for refusing to cook Thanksgiving lunch after 15 years?" So for the past 15 years, I, 38 female, have been the one cooking Thanksgiving lunch, or at least the turkey and most of the food. It's been a tradition, but this year, I am completely burnt out. I'm a teacher with 4 kids, ages 2 to 15, and this year has been especially stressful with work, parenting, and school. I just don't have the energy to take on such a big responsibility again. I suggested that my sister-in-law, who just moved into a new house, should maybe host this year and could make the turkey. She's a stay-at-home mum with 1 child who is 11 months old, so I thought that it wouldn't be too much to ask. My mother-in-law immediately shut that idea down, saying sister-in-law is unreliable and might not wake up early enough to make it. How's that my problem? I then suggested that my brother-in-law's wife could also take on the responsibility. They got married this summer, but have been together for over 5 years. She's never cooked a turkey before, but my mother-in-law said the turkey cooks itself, so I don't see why she can't give it a try. Everyone else shows up to eat every year without lifting a finger, but when I suggest not cooking this year, it's suddenly a crisis. When I told my husband I wasn't cooking, he said I'm just resentful because his parents helped sister-in-law buy her house. That's not true. I even suggested the second sister-in-law could make the turkey. Then he brought up that I'm mad because every time we have a date night, his parents tell my older daughter, who babysits her siblings, that we are neglecting our responsibilities as parents. I pointed out how unfair that is, but he just said, we're the most stable, so that's why we're always asked to take on more. Like, what's going on here? What? Your family hates you, OP. This man hates you. This is not the response a partner who's on your side is supposed to give you in this situation. What is going on? My husband thinks my decision not to cook has less to do with stress and more to do with his family. He said I only decided not to cook after my mum said she wouldn't be coming over. My mum has been battling breast cancer for the past 10 months and just wants to stay home this year and avoid being around so many people. Last year, my parents spent Thanksgiving with my sister, who couldn't travel, but I still cooked for his family. In the past, I hosted Thanksgiving at our house because my family and siblings were coming over, but I've still made the turkey for his family for the last 15 years. Even the years that we hosted for only his side. So the idea that I'm refusing because it's his family isn't true. My husband also said that I have 5 days to rest before Thanksgiving and doesn't understand why I can't just cook the turkey. I explained that I don't want the responsibility of waking up early, making the turkey, and dealing with everyone asking me, "Is it almost done?" For once, I just want to show up, sit down, and eat like everyone else does. He threw in that I've been hosting Thanksgiving for the last 7 years, which I pointed out is exactly why I'm tired. When I told him that I didn't want to do it, he accused me of neglecting my motherly duties, which really hurts. Why should I always be expected to take on the stress of cooking when others don't have to because they can't or don't want to? Well, I don't want to this year either. Am I the asshole for refusing to cook this year? In the comments, Wrong Moose says, motherly duties? Yeah, screw that. Your husband needs to shut his pie hole. In fact, tell hubby that he either backs you or he can do it all. Cooking, cleaning, including before the meal and after. And don't take no for an answer. Not the asshole. Specific Apple asks, my only question back to the motherly duty part is, how aren't the other mothers then not neglecting theirs if they don't take turns for the holidays? How is she the only bad mother because she won't host, but all the other mothers in the family haven't hosted in years? That's what I would say to the duh of a husband. May I politely suggest that you have a husband problem? He does not have your back and is gaslighting you. Your mother-in-law does not respect you and appears to value her daughter and other daughter-in-law more. Your husband will listen to what mummy says and acts accordingly. Not the asshole for refusing to cook. Go visit your mum for Thanksgiving. So your husband has volunteered to do all the prep, cooking, hosting, and cleaning, right? Still not good enough since you said you'd like a break. Good luck on his marriage to his sisters and mum, since he seems to value them more than you. Yeah, Opie's not responding to any of the comments, which I would love to get more of a perspective on her side before the update as to where she's coming from with all of this, but, it didn't happen. I very much see this as an incredible disrespect to OP. With him just saying that he's only not doing it because mum has breast cancer and she's recovering. What a spiteful thing to say. Oh yeah, your dad's in hospital and might die. You know how... You know how manipulative you're being for not wanting to cook Thanksgiving for the 10th year in the row because your dad might die anytime? What's wrong with you? That is some manipulative bullshit if I ever heard it. The whole family is used to and expects her to do all of the work for Thanksgiving, and it doesn't sound like OP's husband does much of the labor during that day. It sounds like she takes up all of the responsibility for hosting and for cooking. I'd be tired too. I'd be done after the first time hosting. She got the patience of a saint for having 4 kids and a 5th one with that husband, and then having to do all of Thanksgiving herself and have to fight his battles, which he does not support her? Man, do you not see why divorce is so often brought up? Does anyone want to personally deal with that much emotional load? That much bullshit? How do you have time for anything when you're juggling so much? I know I'm making assumptions that the husband isn't doing a lot. I'm sure he does do his part. But him, seeing all of this, being with her for so long and still supporting his family is outrageous. I'm not saying divorce in this instance, but I can see why people do it. Just talk to him, slap some sense into him, and get him back on your side. And now, onto the update. Thanks to everyone who weighed in on my original post. I was overwhelmed with the response, as this is my first time posting. After a lot of back and forth with my husband, here's where things stand. I told him that for lunch, the kids and I would be going over to my mum's house. She's recovering from breast cancer and just wants a quiet day, so I want to spend time with her. I told my husband he was welcome to join us or not. That's his choice. He asked me if I could meet him halfway by popping the turkey in the oven before leaving for my mum's, so his family could eat at 3. I said no, but I'd be willing to cook the turkey if dinner was pushed to 6, giving me more time to prepare on my terms. He said that was too late. He then suggested his mum could cook the sides and I would just handle the turkey. Again, I said I would only do it if dinner was moved to 6. When he refused, I stood firm and said no. I want to bring something easy this year, like sodas and desserts, just like everyone else gets to do. I'm tired of being the one responsible for the main dish when others can step up. For context, we live next door to his parents and his sister, so the constant expectations from his family are exhausting. My husband and I share the household responsibilities equally. He does all the daily cleaning, even when we aren't hosting, and we both handle the kids' baths, school drop-offs, and pickups. I'm not complaining about him at all. The issue is with his family. His family keeps insisting the others can't cook or host because they're incompetent. But the real problem is that my in-laws coddle them and never let them take responsibility for anything. That's not my problem to solve. I just want a break from being the one carrying the load every year. I'm sticking to my boundaries. If they think no one else is capable of cooking, then they can deal with the consequences, not me. Also, I had said since last month that I didn't want to host or cook, so this is not new information to his family. Another update. Someone asked how it became the tradition of me making the turkey. My mother-in-law rarely made a turkey. They usually went to my husband's paternal grandparents' house. Him and the cousins are all of the same age, so once everyone got married, his aunts and cousins started doing their own thing. I got handed the job of turkey because my mother-in-law said that her oven was too small to fit the turkey. She has one of those built-in wall ovens from the 80s. The first year before we were living next to them, she came over and brought it prepped and put it in the oven herself and would come by to check it. Every year after that, I was tasked to do it by myself. So for the first 7 years of me making it, we would have to carry it in the car over to their house. Also, in years past, we would have a second turkey made fried or smoked by my father-in-law. No one liked it or would eat it, so it would go to the dog. I was still making the main turkey, so that was just a second one. Final update. My husband apologized for everything that was said and fully supported my decision not to cook this year. I didn't cook and instead spent some time with my mum. On Wednesday night, my eldest daughter stayed over at my mum's house and helped my sister prepare and cook for Thanksgiving. On Thursday, we went to my mum's house around noon, had lunch, and spent some time together. Later, at around 4:30, we headed to my sister-in-law's house for dinner. Her husband made the turkey, my mother-in-law prepared all the sides, and we brought dessert. It ended up being a really nice and relaxing Thanksgiving. In the comments, Top Cantaloupe says, "Just reading this made me want to cancel Thanksgiving. Not the asshole. You can cancel Thanksgiving if need be. Sounds stressful, and no one is helping. At this point, just pre-order takeout Chinese food the day before and serve it the next day, or get some cheap microwavables that are Turkey Day inspired and call it a day. You are not obligated to do it all the time. Someone should step in to alleviate the stress. You already do so much. Why do everything?" Weaponized incompetence is such an insidious form of laziness and selfishness. It's really gross. OP has to do everything for everyone all the time because no one else can figure out how to mash a potato? Let the rest of the family teach themselves some basic skills, or else meet at a restaurant. These awful people have been enabled for too long. Oh, you're being terribly unfair. If they don't know how to make something, how are they to learn? It's not like you can type how to cook item and get lists of sites with instructions or a video. Intentional Bad says, why is everyone on these subs so much more patient than me? All these endless negotiations and discussions. I don't have the energy. I'd say, husband, I have told you, I am not cooking the turkey. That is the information that you need. Do with that what you will. This conversation is over. For Christ's sake. Seriously, my spouse would never try pulling bullshit like this because he knows that I'd tell him exactly where he could put his effing turkey. Me too. I got enraged even before these people backed me up on this one. That's just so ridiculous that he's trying so much to negotiate with you and be like, well, can you still be responsible for it even though you said you wouldn't be responsible for it? What do I have to say and do to get you to be responsible for it? Please. They can't just walk one house over and do something that they were able to do 7 years ago. Do you know how much of a pressure that puts on me as your husband? Like, Jesus Christ, OP. You've been with this guy for what, 15 years? More than that? You have a 15-year-old with him. How can you not just yell at him like a normal human being and say, get your head out of your ass, what's gotten into you? You go deal with your own ridiculous parents yourself, not my problem. I don't get it. I just don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. If you've been married for so long, how can you not just be honest with people like that? And how do you not know how to shut them up? Boggles my mind. Will forever boggle my mind. Thank you for the story, OP. Very much enjoyable. I'm glad you had a good Thanksgiving.